It's a Thursday, it's my day, and here we are. If you find us looking like Alewa black and white, or maybe Dalmatians black and white, it's because I don't know why this woman
it's him.
always dreams of what I'm going to use, and then she matches my colors. I mean, she walked in and I was like, yo!
Benjamin, I think we have very strong telepathic, should I say, connections. We can tell.
You know, I'm beginning to wonder. Do other show hosts?
I don't think so. People might think that as costumers and they intentionally dress us up like that, but I mean...
This is not intentional. It's so not intentional.
But it really looks good. It really looks good, yeah.
Thank you.
But,
you look awesome, by the way.
Thank you. Whatever you're up to this morning, I hope it's not whimsical and capricious. Welcome to the AM show, folks, around the world on myjoyonline.com, across Ghana's 16 regions on the Joy News channel. We are your hosts. I'm Sweetie Aboagye.
My name is Benjamin Akakwa. Now let's zoom right into it. Right after this, we're serving you the news, and that will be followed by the news review. Amanda Clinton is with the Clinton Consultancy. She will join us. We also have Kwesi Kwating. He is former PRO of the Education Ministry. Both of them will join us as we look into the papers. And then after that, we'll serve you sports with Haruna Mubarak. And then we get into our big stories.
If you've been following what's happening in Parliament, then you know that minorities called on President Mahama to be truthful about the country he inherited from the previous administration as he delivers his maiden State of the Nation address to Parliament today. We'll take you live to Parliament for the proceedings. But before that, we'll discuss with our expert panel what their expectations are ahead of the president's delivery. So you want to join us with your comments and your thoughts across all social media platforms. We are Joy News on TV. Then
you want to stick and stay with us because the tidbits you want to find out will serve you right now in the news, courtesy of Sweetie Aboagye. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the first news bulletin on the Joy News channel. My name is Sweetie Aboagye, and now the news in detail. The leadership style of former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, described in the party's fact-finding committee report as one that was marked by perceptions of rigidity, single-minded decision-making, and a government dominated by family members, has been cited as a key factor in the NPP's disappointing performance in the Ashanti region during last election. The mode of selecting the party's presidential, parliamentary, and national and regional executives is also blamed for the poor showing of the NPP in the region. Now, former majority leader of the party in Parliament and chairman of the fact-finding committee, Osei Mensah Bonsu, has been sharing some thoughts on how to salvage the NPP.
It's unfortunate that we've gotten to this extent. When this delegation started, people paid some stipends to the participants. Initially, when we started, they were even just serving them food. It came to substituting that with the provision of TNT to those of them who assembled at one place to cast their votes. And it was near transport fares that were paid. Today, it's escalated into something else. And we all know the outcome of it. So people are saying that let's go further downstream. Some of the university professors that we met also came with some other suggestion. That look, this whole thing is about delegate, and a delegate does not bear his own voice. He carries the voice and the thinking of the people that he represents. For instance, I'm a member of Parliament. I go to represent Ghana's Parliament outside Ghana. There is a forum where Ghana's Parliament has to vote. I don't represent myself. The issues before we leave, we take positions on them. And if, say, we have to vote, then led by our speaker would say that on this matter, Ghana votes, maybe if we have about 15 votes, Ghana will vote maybe 12 for this item. The next one, maybe 2, and the other one goes to maybe a third option. That's how we do it. So the university professors were saying that, look, at International Fora, this is how it's done. So if maybe we want to really keep to the delegate system as it is now, then the constituencies must meet and take positions, and the delegates will then bear the decisions of the constituency, in which case they will not be representing themselves, but they will be representing the constituency position. What we are doing now, the status quo, is not serving the interest of this, causing divisions, it's causing polarization, and people are taking undue advantage and, turning the party structures into a money-making machine, which is not good for the image of the party.
Next, the minority on the vetting committee has rejected the nomination of Justice Ramsai as Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice. Now, this follows a clash and abrupt termination of the vetting of the nominee as a ranking member, Alexander Penyumakin, refused to apologize for describing the chairman of the committee as being whimsical and capricious and rudely interjecting proceedings. Now, Chairman Bernard Ahiafo was forced to stop the ranking member from continuing with his questions after failing to force an apology from the ranking member. But what exactly led to this? We'll tell you more in this report.
Between Chairman Bernard Ahiafo and his ranking Alexander Penyumakin began when the ranking member, during his questioning, asked the nominee, Justice Ramsai, to demonstrate how the Akpi dance of the people of Bedome is performed. Chairman Ahiafo stepped in and overruled the question, an action which did not sit well with the ranking member.
Honorable nominee, the question is overruled. You are not going to demonstrate.
Chairman, if you decide to be whimsical and capricious, it will not advance the work of this committee. Apart from the constitutional issues involved, it is also about our culture. We've had nominees speaking their dialect here. And I do not think that if you start by it's overruled.
After a number of failed attempts to force an apology from Penyumakin, the chairman decided to stop him from further proceeding and ended the vetting process.
Ruling the question that
I will not
you are not
withdraw.
going to
You were whimsical,
any dance.
You were whimsical and capricious in the way you overruled my question. I will not withdraw.
You would not demonstrate any dance. This is not a demonstration forum. This is appointment committee. So I insist that you withdraw the word that I'm being whimsical and capricious.
Chairman, I will not withdraw. I'm sorry. I will not withdraw. You rudely overruled me. I will not withdraw.
I would again ask that you withdraw the word rudely.
Chairman, one more time, I will not withdraw. I'm sorry.
Will you withdraw?
Chairman, I'm sorry, I will not withdraw.
Well, to demonstrate to you that I am the chairman for this particular vetting committee, that may be your last question.
After a brief caucus meeting, the minority returned with an announcement.
The minority caucus hereby rejects the nomination of the Deputy Attorney General, and that the decision of it would be solely yours as a majority caucus. For today, all other nominees, in furtherance of our protests, we are also rejecting them, and then your decision, it will remain your decision as majority caucus. God willing, tomorrow, we are receiving the president. Our understanding is that there is no vetting. On Friday, God willing, will be available. And if the posture remains same, we will advise ourselves on the next line of action.
But the chairman rejected this position, warning he could have cited Penyumakin for contempt over his action.
I'm entitled to overrule a question. When you want to convert the appointment committee, and for that matter, the vetting room into a dancing floor, I think the just thing for me to do is overrule that particular question. In Parliament, anytime unparliamentary language is used, by our rules, you will be requested to withdraw and sometimes apologize. When you refuse to do so, he is even lucky that I have not even cited him for contempt. Honorable members, let's make progress.
The minority later staged a walkout, leaving the subsequent 2 other vetings for the majority. James Savage's report for Joy News.
Looks like Parliament has been a hot spot for news stories this year. But let's stay on the minority for a bit, because they're calling on President John Dramani Mahama to be truthful about the country he inherited from the NPP when he delivers his message on the State of the Nation address today. John Mahama is expected to address Parliament for his maiden State of the Nation address of his second term today. Now, speaking to journalists in Parliament, the NPP MPs signaled out employment, the economy, power crisis as the key issues they expect President John Dramani Mahama to be candid about. Let's tell you more.
Huge unemployment rate in this country. I'm sure he's going to address that. Not because he inherited that, but because he's creating that through his chief of staff. He signed a letter terminating and revoking the appointment of young Ghanaians that have been appointed into various state institutions. The directive was poor, was bad, was malicious. That is my view about that. In the same vein that the same chief of staff signed letters for people on the 19th of December, employing them even to the highest level of governance in this country. Now we have a huge unemployment rate. You can see the TUC's letter admonishing him to rescind that decision that he's made. I'm sure, maybe, probably, tomorrow, I'm expecting that he speaks to that.
Economy that was criminally mismanaged, was able to give Ghanaians children free secondary education. Economy that was criminally mismanaged, was able to pay allowances to nurses and teachers. Economy that was criminally mismanaged, was able to give some infrastructure. Economy that was criminally mismanaged gave us electricity 24/7. So we want the president to come and tell us the economy that was criminally mismanaged.
His Excellency would not continue on that looking back all the time. He's been in power for close to two months. His energy minister told us that they've been able to procure alternative fuel and that we expect the lights to be on. I think they should focus on that rather than continuously blaming the previous government. The reality now is that there is some intermittent power outages. I anticipate that, yes, he'll give us some breakdown of how the economy was handed over to him, but I want him to dwell more on what next he intends to do going forward.
Still on the matter, meanwhile, the NDC side believes the president will deliver hope to the people and concretize his vision to reset the country.
Great expectations, which borders on how Ghana is going to roll into the future to reset, as he himself has touted so far. And we expect to see the hopes of Ghanaians renewed towards many of the things that are in our manifesto in the area of education, health, agribusiness, etc., etc. So high expectations that we will see all these areas touched on in terms of programs that will be rolled out to actually bring back a lot of enthusiasm, particularly jobs for the youth.
I'll be expecting the State of the Nation the State of the Nation address and the President addressing that issue. Again, my other expectation is that the true state that we inherited as the majority will be reflected tomorrow, because we know that His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa, just before he was exiting office, gave us a State of the Nation and told us that Ghana is not broke. There's so much that he has left for us. But tomorrow, I believe, by the time we hear the true State of the Nation, indeed we will know where and what we inherited.
To other stories, Africa stands at a pivotal moment, striving to balance economic growth with environmental sustainability. Speaking at the Alliance for Science Global Consortium meeting in Nairobi, Kenya, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, the NPP's running mate in the 2024 election, underscored the urgent need for strong political leadership in tackling climate change, poverty, and resource management. He cautioned that without informed and committed leaders, Africa's sustainability challenges will persist, jeopardizing the future generations to come.
Africa is a continent of immense potential. We are home to 30% of the world's mineral reserves, especially the critical minerals necessary for our current development. We have the 65% of the arable lands in the world, which is suffering. We have huge oil and gas reserves. Yet we are also the continent most vulnerable to climate change, despite contributing the least to climate change or greenhouse gas emissions. This paradox places us at the heart of the global sustainability debate. Sustainability, encompassing environmental protection, social equity, and economic viability, is not merely an option, but an imperative for our survival and prosperity. While individual actions are crucial, actual systemic change that addresses the scale of the climate challenges we face today require political will and leadership. We have, as a humanity, organized ourselves in society, and we, from generations, have decided that societies must have leaders, and as these leaders, the reality, however, is that sustainability doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires the political will. That means the ability to enact policies that may not yield immediate electoral benefits, but will serve future generations. For we politicians, our minds is tuned to 4-year electoral cycle. And we have to make policies and enact laws. That one, I heard this morning, 80% must go. No thinking. That is not what we need. We need informed political leaders to make sure that we don't lose out in this sustainability debate.
The health service for the Komenda Edina Iguafu-Abre municipality in the central region is highlighting its achievement in 2024. During the municipality's 2024 annual health performance review, the Municipal Director of Health Services, Martin Sumani Danko, reported a decrease in maternal mortality and a slight decline in family planning uptake. Abigail Nkrumah has more in this report.
Sumani Danko, the Municipal Director of Health Service for the Komenda Edina Iguafu-Abre municipality, expressed relief for the achievement of the health service in 2024, as he urged health staff to continue their hard work as their efforts have been fruitful.
Looking at what we did, at least there are up and downs. We did well in some indicators, others we need to also improve.
On safeguarding public health, the representative of the Acting Central Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Ellen Alfred Echampon, shared this in her speech.
In recent times, the region has experienced outbreaks of diseases such as cholera, influenza, and dengue fever, placing a significant burden on our public health system. These outbreaks have strained healthcare resources, increased hospital admissions, and exposed critical challenges in disease prevention and response.
During the occasion of the 2024 annual performance review of the health service in the municipality, the Chief of CBIL, Nana Kwame Natsikwe I, expressed worry over the growing incline of teenage pregnancy cases in the municipality.
Just from the review, it was announced or it was revealed that teenage pregnancy in KE and Central Region is, escalating. And it is worrisome. So, as chiefs, our duty is to protect our people. So we have to make a campaign.
From KEA Municipality, Abigail Nkrumah report for Joy News.
With the rains expected soon, residents near Mile 7 Park fear another season of flooding from choked gutters. For months, the filth has made life difficult. But despite repeated complaints, little has been done until now. A group of young professionals, the Bastard Boys, have rolled up their sleeves to tackle the mess. My colleague Jacqueline and Aboagye has more.
For months, these gutters have been overflowing with waste, turning every downpour into a nightmare for motorists and residents. With the rainy season approaching, the stagnant water not only breeds mosquitoes, but also intensifies the nauseating stench in the area. Kojo, a member of the Bastard Boys, admitted that this cleanup has been one of their toughest challenges yet.
This is really tough, one of the toughest jobs we are doing as volunteers. And mainly because individuals, I don't know how we are thinking, but food waste, organic waste is not actually waste. If we understand what it means actually, we could have kept remains of our food somewhere.
Frustrated residents say the choke drains have disrupted their daily lives. Many blame two food joints, which they believe contribute significantly to the waste buildup.
Seeing it ourselves, we haven't been very happy with it. This thing has been there for some time now, and community members raise eyebrows over it. They complain a lot, especially to the food vendor over there. That is a
higher pan because first I got and to me
the situation is really troubling. Our gutters never used to get this clogged, but ever since the new restaurants started operating, their waste, especially oil and other residue, has been flowing into the drains, causing serious blockages. Before, we could just sweep to keep things clean, but now the build-up has made that impossible.
But
the challenges from the main issue comes from the restaurants. They dispose of their waste into the gutter, causing blockages that lead to flooding whenever it rains. We've been raising concerns about this for a while.
The gutter affects us sometimes. Maybe sometimes even for the gutter will be smelling, and it's causing many things for us. Maybe if customer came to buy something, when the gutter started smelling, the person will leave.
One roadside food vendor admitted to pouring waste into the gutters, but insisted she only disposes of water after removing solid debris.
Before answer na me use the gutter imuno. Na me di kan den asone so answer. Answer na me di akọ gutter.
However, a more prominent establishment has been at the center of the complaints. The manager of the food joint admitted to contributing to the problem.
All some people from Council, they came here concerning that, and then now we all channeled the plan, and then now we did that part.
Yeah, but you also don't think some of your stuff, I mean the stuff that you use at the restaurant, some of them do not make their way to the gutter? You don't think so?
Oh, I think because it's a food, they definitely rice particles and that one. I think but that's not the main problem. Yeah, because definitely.
So then it means somehow, some way you also contribute.
Yes, we also, I could say that we also contribute, but the main problem is that those over there.
Yeah. What would you do in your bit to also make sure that once they are done, we won't see such a filth here?
After everything, we want to put some measures that maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks, we're going to call for an exercise so that we all help and then we all clear every dirty things inside the gutter.
The Bastard Boys affirm their commitment to keeping Ghana clean and fostering a change in mindset towards proper waste disposal. For Joy News, I'm Jacqueline and Aboagye.
Moving on, popular U.S. preacher Apostle Wayne T. Jackson and his wife, Dr. Beverly Jackson, have donated a fully equipped computer laboratory and library to the underprivileged Ebusia District Assembly Junior High School in the Ashanti region. The couple aims to enhance the teaching and learning of information and communication technology at the school with a new lab, which is stocked with 60 computers and stable internet connectivity. Additionally, the school received a new junior high school block, a modern toilet facility, and a mechanized water system from the philanthropist. There's more in this report.
It was all joy as pupils of Aboagye DA Junior High School performed choreography to welcome high-grade computers to the school. Until the donation of the ICT lab, students in the farming community lived an imaginary life in the study of ICT, as teachers taught computing lessons without access to computers and other inputs.
They only understand the theory as belief, never
try their hands on any computer before.
Popular U.S. preacher, Apostle Wayne T. Jackson and his wife, Dr. Beverly Jackson, offered the opportunity to change the status of the school. They have also donated a JHS block, toilet and water facilities, as well as a modern palace to the local traditional authority. Apostle Jackson is also promising to build teachers' quarters to accommodate teachers who commute from far to teach in the school.
I'm so glad that God has freed us as a people to come back to our homeland, to be a blessing to all of our brothers and sisters here.
Overlord of Insuta traditional area, Nana Asamoah Jemfi Sechere, says access to the ICT lab and library has put children in the area on the same level where they can compete with their counterparts elsewhere.
This facility will provide our youth with access to modern technology, resources and knowledge, and empower them to compete in an increasingly digital world.
Kwabena Kunedu Yadom is a computing teacher for the local junior high school. He says the pupils are already anxious for the first practical ICT class, where they will have the opportunity to touch computers for the first time.
They came for inspection, but they've never tried their hands on it yet. Yes, and they are happy with these computers because they are coming to know things more practical aside the theory they know already.
Meanwhile, all is set for the construction of the Teachers' Quarters project to be funded by Jackson Impact Foundation. Apostle Wayne T. Jackson is also the founder and president of Impact Network, the all-African American founded and operated national Christian television network in the U.S. Ohimi Interior's report read to you.
And that takes us to Benjamin Akapo now. He serves you Business Update.
Welcome aboard our Business Update for the morning. Let's head straight into our currency market to find out how the cedi and other currencies are trading. Let's head into our stories now. And the Ghana Association of Banks has expressed its commitment to work closely with the Bank of Ghana to implement the necessary reforms in improving the financial sector. According to the association, the proposed priority areas and reforms outlined by the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Esiama would go a long way to help de-risk the financial architecture of the country. Johnny Wah is CEO of the Ghana Association of Banks and has been speaking to Joy Business.
It's a very good start. Without a firm foundation, there is not much you can build. And without cleaning up of the environment, there's not much loan you can give. There's not much a monetary policy that can drive the right behaviors and the right regulatory policy outcomes. So I wouldn't say that it is a strict jacket and therefore it is he does this and then everything is 100% done. But you have to start from somewhere, and we like where he's starting from. And normally, I like leaders who do not give you 1,001 things they are going to do, but they give you out of the 1,001, the 3, 4, 5 that they are going to directly focus on, that is going to help them succeed. So it is a building block, and I think the foundation has been laid very solidly, and we know
how to track his performance. And that tells you that going forward, you can pick your phone and say, when you came, your first thing was to say you're going to work on the exchange rates. How have you fared? You said you're going to deepen financial inclusion. How have you fared? You said you're going to work with the fiscal managers to balance monetary policy and fiscal policy. How have you fared? You said we're going to help the banks to reduce NPLs. How have you fared? So we have areas where we can quickly test the performance of the new governor. And I think it's a very good way to start.
In our second story, the 2024 Ghana Trade Report released by the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed that gold was the main export product for the country in that year. There's more in this report.
The report showed that gold exports to Asia accounted for 65.4%, Europe 60.2%, and Africa 49.4%, while mineral fuels and oils predominated exports to North America, representing 60.9%. It further revealed that more than half of the exports to each continent were received by one country. In Asia, the United Arab Emirates received 53.1% of Ghana's exports. Canada received 58.6% of exports to North America. Switzerland accounted for 60.2% of exports to Europe. South Africa was the destination for 60.5% to other African countries. Brazil predominated exports to South America with a 94.1% share. The United Arab Emirates, Switzerland, and South Africa are the main export destinations for Ghana. Exports to these countries each exceeded 35 billion cedis, which when combined is more than a third of the total value of exports in 2024.
Let's now find out how major commodities are being bought and sold for in our commodities market. And that's it for our business update. Handing over back to Sweetie Aboagye.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm copying my dressing code, but thank you for bringing us business updates. Now let's end the news review, the news bulletin on the AM show, and get ready for the news review segments. And Kwesi Kwarteng is former PRO for the Ministry of Education. Amanda Clinton is head of Chamber Clinton Consultancy. They join us to review the newspapers. We're back in a bit. Don't go away. Welcome aboard the news review segment on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo and Sweetie Aboagye are your hosts here in the conversations for you this morning. Our guest in studio, Amanda Clinton, head of Chamber for Clinton Consultancy. Kwesi Kwarteng, former PRO for the Education Ministry. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the program. Amanda, you look good. I love the hair color.
I love your hair color
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Benjamin.
Well, you know how we do it. We're going to delve into your thoughts for us this morning very quickly, and then we'll get right into the newspapers. I'll start with you, Amanda. Any thoughts for us?
Well, just the leading story in the Overseer.
But anything apart from, before we get into the papers? You know how we do it. We give you about a minute or so to reflect on something you've been cogitating about, or do you want to go straight into the papers?
In politics?
Anything.
Oh, well, I mean...
the appointments committee has still been sitting. Okay, so I'll run this by you. There's a story in the Punch newspaper that I was just, teasing Kwesi Kwarteng on, Habib Idrisu, talking about the movie industry with John Dumelo. Did you follow that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, he was basically saying, this was a serious place and John Dumelo better, apply that seriousness to it. This wasn't the movie industry. And the likes of George Quay in the movie industry have taken serious exception to that. And I was just teasing that, look, you can make your point without sometimes denigrating. But anyway, if there's nothing you'd like to delve into, Kwesi, is there something you'd like to quickly look at before?
Even on that very subject matter, I did not follow the proceedings. Usually I watch except on your Facebook platform, but of course I'm trusting your report, and I want to believe maybe the context was not that serious. Maybe it wasn't really too. Kwesi,
if you've not followed the thing, are you sure you want to go down this route?
That's what I'm saying. That I want to understand the full context, but I'm not sure it will be to denigrate the movie industry, because we all know the significant role that is played within our space as a country.
Okay, so this is what Habib said. You are not in your movie industry. Try to be as serious as you can.
Well.
You are not in your movie industry. Try to be as serious as you can at a ministerial vetting. What is that supposed to mean? The unserious ones go into the movie industry?
No, I'm not sure it's that. It depends on how you perceive it, whether you want to perceive a half-filled glass as half empty or half full. That's why I'm saying that you want to look at the whole context within which it was said. Maybe it was said on a lighter note, it was said also on a harsher note. But, bottom line is that nobody will want to denigrate the movie industry.
The Americans have a saying. They say, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then don't say none.
And if you're a politician, stick to the issues.
Yesterday, the appointment committee, yet another drama, I like to say, on the issue of being whimsical and capricious. How about that, Amanda?
Yeah, I definitely think so, particularly about the Deputy Attorney General.
Yeah.
To expect him to dance for his position, so to speak, I think was somewhat inappropriate. And I do think the chairman of the committee was extremely right to say that he didn't have to answer that question.
Okay.
And it seems somehow now the minority is saying that the Deputy Attorney General shouldn't, go forward. But I think he was absolutely right. He shouldn't have to dance for his position, but perhaps, advocate for his position.
Do you think Bernard Ahiafo took it a bit too far?
He certainly did. He's a very well-read person because he's a lawyer, and had studied the nominees before him. And of all the questions he could have asked in relation to international, legal matters and local legal matters and, restructuring of the IMF deal and everything like that, he rather reduced the conversation to making him dance for his position. So I think it was inappropriate.
Kwesi, quick bite and then we get into the...
Well, I'm not sure the vetting is really that mechanical. There are moments where you break their eyes.
So he should have danced?
Not really. Where you cause just the environment to be quite flexible and tension-free. It's not really about the dancing, but even with the chairman's interjection, I am also of the view that even if you are doing something right, you also have to do right and at the right time, and even it has to come out right. I think Mr. Markin's contention has to do with the manner within which he was interjected. That's how come he described it as rude, whimsical, and capricious. When you, as a leader, you want to exercise so much of power and authority, that is where the problem lies. But I'm not sure it was really about dance or don't. People have been asked so much questions, wilder questions, and they did not answer. When you are before the committee, it does not necessarily mean that you have to do everything that the committee asks you. Okay. Sometimes we just have to be flexible and open as leaders.
To be flexible and dance.
I'm not saying it's...
no.
Honestly, that was the highlight of my day yesterday.
Pardon me. When did we get here?
Exactly.
Deputy Attorney General, come and...
No.
And
but
for that reason...
I would have loved to see him try.
No, the point
then he wouldn't have been deserving of the position if he did.
Well...
The point is, people have different... And let me just say this. There was a guest I helped someone get once onto a show. And the person took great exception to something. You know what? When the person came on the show, out of the blue, he was asked, and this is a university professor, very affable. I wouldn't have thought it would have been, but he was asked to dance. And later he gave me a call and said, Ben, your people, when I came, this and that, and they asked, this was not part of what we, you get it? Mm. How on earth, I mean,
Benjamin.
No, wait. If I am coming for vetting, I'm coming for you to ask me, and let's be fair. If you go to the jurisdictions we try to emulate, when would you go to the UK or the US and serious business is being discussed, someone is being vetted, and someone is being asked to, I mean...
Is the logic that dancers are not serious?
And then for me... and
I'm asking you a question.
Not really.
Is the logic that dancers are not serious?
I don't think
from Habib, the analogy that you just advance.
I'm not saying that dancers are not serious. I am saying that in the context of what is being asked, no one is expected to come there and dance. Yeah. The person is expected to come there. Mind you, this is the same group that we've criticized in the past, that people came and they were asking them wishy-washy questions. Yes. So we want them to ask questions. Let's find out whether these people are up for the role, rather than come and dance for me to. Like, if you ask me to dance, I will not.
I think you should.
I will not dance.
No, Benjamin. Separate
and
the
then
dancer.
On the back of that, because just to land, on the back of that, it gets to the point where this committee, the sitting is ended and all of that. Do you know what that means? Taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money. The same thing they did the last time when we had to, the chairs were broken, tables, and then taxpayers' money. Let's not waste time on some of these things. But anyway.
Can I?
Yes.
Respectfully, I am of the view that separate the dancing from whatever ensued between the minority leader and the chairman, where he described his interjection as rude. These are two separate things. You can talk about the dancing as whether or not he ought to have danced. But if I describe your interjection in a manner that I believe is rude, we should be able to respond to that differently.
The was in opposition to the question.
Fair play, but the manner through that it was that was where he had an issue with. Nobody is talking about the dancing, but he was talking about the manner, where he said it was rude, it was whimsical, it was capricious, and more or less an abuse of his role as a chairman. He wanted to show up, and if you recall, he said, I'm the chairman, and I'll show you that I'm the chairman. I mean,
is he not the chairman?
He is, but that's what I'm saying. They have to even do right things.
Let me make a point, though.
You have to do right things right.
Just a quick bit. Afenyo is very quick to ask for apologies from people every now and then. Apologize for this, apologize for that. I thought yesterday, honestly, that he would apologize and just let matters go. But that's my opinion.
Okay, let's make progress. The Daily Graphic has these stories on the front page. Stay away from Galamsey. Speaker warns MPs. Rona Motors partners Chinese company to promote electric vehicles. Borders must pay boarding, feeding fees. Education forum stakeholders. And government rallies MPs for Galamsey fight. Tonight's presidential business dinner postponed. Remove COVID-19 levy, VAT on transit cargo, acting GPHA boss says. But I want to start from some political story in here. Election outcome confirms our systems worked, EC boss. And this story is on page 17 of the Daily Graphic. So the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, has described the outcome of the 2024 general election as a confirmation and affirmation that its processes and systems worked. Quote, the outcomes are indeed an attestation that elections in Ghana are free, fair, credible, and transparent. As a commission, we've always maintained that our role is not to make any candidate or political party a winner, and it goes on and on. You know, they were under a lot of criticism in the lead up to the election, during the election, and even after, about whether or not their processes and their systems were working and whether they had, you know, a grasp of whatever it is that they were doing. They're saying that the review, there's been a review of election 2024, and they're saying the outcome proved that they, in fact, knew what they were doing. Their systems worked. Amanda, let me throw that to you. Quick comment on that.
In terms of?
In terms of their machinery, you know, there was a lot of back and forth between how to actually go. They started by trying to remove indelible ink and then brought back the biometric verification devices. They're saying that everything they did worked. Well, based on a review, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think no system can be perfect, and, you know, one is always striving for perfection. But I do think, you know, based on the review and based on what we saw, the elections did go very smoothly.
Did it?
Very much. I mean...
the election or the collation? I mean,
well,
I like to separate the two.
The collation, I mean, people will always be unhappy. I mean, in any country, they're going to contest And I think it was no more than 4 to 5 seats that were being contested. But I very much support Ghana's system in terms of collation. I don't believe in electronic voting systems. I think it can be highly manipulated in any jurisdiction. And so with what we have, our coalition process is very good for pink sheets and different things like that. And we just have to fine tune it. But it was just 4 or 5 seats, I think, that are being contested still.
Okay. Kwesi, do you want to get a bite at this?
Obviously.
Defense is saying that everything they did shows that their systems worked. Election was free, fair, transparent, but we saw pockets of violence, which was as a result of their system or their ways of collating results. But over to you.
For me, I'm not sure we should be so jubilant about this. Okay. If you ask me, that's their work. They are paid to do so, and we have entrusted such a mandate to them. The Electoral Commission has been running elections apparently from 1992, if you are talking about democratic dispensation. And the expectation is that by now they should have improved significantly with regards to the system that they use. I have always maintained that I'm biased towards protecting state institutions because that's what we have. And the only thing is that in as much as that we may want to criticize for improvement, we can only hope that they get better. So for me, I don't know the forum where it was said, but I mean, that is what we expect from them, that you have a system that is working, because if you have a collapsed system, definitely it's going to affect us, even in terms of our national security and everything. I don't want to entirely blame them with regards to the coalition, because a lot of them, and a lot of instances, you have political parties, their members trooping in and in some situations disrupting the coalition process, as we witness in most of your media platforms.
Right.
We expect that side, there have to be more collaboration with relevant state institutions going forward. Other than that, we don't want to go back to situations where election becomes so much tense and political parties may have to devise their own means and methodologies to protect the ballot because they don't have trust in relevant state institutions. So yes, I will call for that extensive collaboration between them and all state institutions, the police, the army, and what have you, so that because 2028, with regards to what we saw, the pocket of violence, the disruptions and other things, I am sure all political parties are going to advise themselves. Of course, it's also not a way of endorsing any form of violence, but people may want to protect legitimately the votes that they casted. So the expectation is that they collaborate further with all other institutions, particularly the security service, and make sure that when it comes to ensuring security at the polling stations and particularly the collations, I mean, people have argued that they don't even also believe that the collation centers are relevant. It's also a question that people must look at. But I mean, for now, that is the system that we have. I am of the view that is work satisfactory, and we may only, hope to improve it.
Okay, so 3 headlines, and I'll end on a story that I really want us to get into. So first, trade surplus hits 44.7 billion Ghana cedis. Don't impose sugar tax on beverage companies. AGI urges government ahead of 2025 budget statement. And borders must pay boarding, feeding fees. Education forum stakeholders are saying. So stakeholders in education have proposed a significant change in the country's free senior high school education policy, suggesting that boarding students should be allowed to pay for their boarding and feeding fees. Was it this of interest to you because you just left that ministry? But this is coming from the stakeholder consultative engagement that they're doing. And they're saying that looking at the way things are going, boarders must pay for their boarding fees and feeding fees. But the whole point of free senior high school, well, you go.
For me, I am of the view that matters like this, we should hasten slowly. Most times we believe that we are copying the best practices elsewhere in other jurisdictions. Maybe we look at America, we look at other countries that are implementing the free senior high school policy. And we want to juxtapose our system with them. And then lay claims and even come to conclusions that, even in America, they are not paying even, let's look at even in the nominal terms. How much do we even spend on free SHS a year? That's around 2.3, 2.5 billion. The question is that if we don't spend that money, where does that money go? I don't see why we have always seen free SHS as an expenditure rather than seeing it as an investment. The government is, I mean, they are now in power. They have the mandate. If it is left for them to withdraw some of these things, fine. But you see, a lot of these conversations, most times when we have it, we just situate it and narrow the whole country to Accra and believe that everything is well. I'm from a village, and I understand how withdrawing some of these things can affect people. You see, for us, when we came into power, we saw education as a tool for achieving socio-economic transformation. People don't go to senior high schools for varied reasons. Sometimes even feeding, prospectus, basic things like mathematical sets and what have you. We had about 100,000 students that were eligible to go to school, but they don't. Those who are even able to enter, along the way, we have about 50,000 pulling out, either first year or second year. So as a country, if we are always priding ourselves that we want to use education as a fulcrum for socio-economic transformation, we have to look at it very critically.
Let me make a point here. You said that the money is involved, we are seeing it as an expenditure instead of an investment. I don't think it's a matter of how much you're spending, but if we are putting the money in the right place. I think also from this engagement, we've heard that they're saying that government should focus on infrastructure, resource development, and let the people pay for, like fees and these. Also because you're talking about the quality of education, the quality of the students that you're churning out after they've gone through the free senior high school. Yeah, so if the money is going to feeding and boarding fees, when we can use that to develop infrastructure, develop human resources, make the teachers comfortable, create a conducive learning and teaching environment for the students, wouldn't that be more efficient than just pumping the money into boarding fees and feeding fees when parents can take care of that?
I agree to a larger extent that education largely thrives on three key variables. Talk about access, quality, and relevance. That is the impact of education on socio-economic transformation. But you see, the reverse of your question is that before free SHS was introduced, what was the quality of our education? We make very simplistic arguments, as though before free SHS was introduced, we had a certain level of quality and free SHS came and maybe it's not like that. To the contrary, if you look at the data, it is even at the time of free SHS where quality has apparently reduced. If you want to, no, it's not from Kwesi Kwarteng. No, increase. It's not from Kwesi Kwarteng. This is the data from WAEC. That has to be the most common variable in using to measuring quality. Of course, we may go into that critically. But for me, I don't have a problem if that is the argument that these people are advancing. But if you look at the posturing, if you look at the commentaries, it appears the whole National Education Forum has been designed and structured to just cancel the free senior high school. Yes, because
where are you inferring this from?
No, the proposals that are coming up.
Well, I think you have to interject here because honestly, if you look at the caliber of people, including the Catholic Bishops' Conference, the Christian Council, all these people who, yes, maybe there was an apology for bringing them in oversight. If you look at the criteria or if you look at the caliber of people on board that discussion, I think it would be very unfair. I've heard this argument advanced before. Let's wait and see. But in any case, we'll hold the feet of this government to the fire of accountability because they said they would not cancel free SHS. But let's also be practical, Kwesi Kwarteng. Even the IMF, when we went to the IMF, in their statement to us, they made mention of the fact that when it comes to free SHS, implementing it free for everybody without any restrictions, rich, poor, everything in there is not the way to go. And we have examples from other jurisdictions, which you know of. So I don't know why...
I hope I can respond to you.
That it's merely a setup to... I don't think even we as journalists would allow that to happen because free SHS has come to stay. And the current president has said it has come to stay. But the mechanism of it is what all of us know has to be changed.
I think you spoke about two main issues. One has to be with the caliber of people and the commentary by IMF. First of all, the caliber of people. Does it also include peasant farmers? Does it also include hawkers?
Actually, they're engaging all caliber of people.
Have we
market people, everybody.
Perfect. What is also their position? Respectfully. Beyond the Catholic Bishop Conference and the big guys, the big boys that you mentioned, the caliber of people. Let's also listen to everybody. The market women, the ordinary Ghanaians. Are they also advancing that? When you talk about the free SHS, some of these things should be withdrawn. Let's also look at their perspective. Not only quoting from the people that we feel some way, or some are the bourgeoisies or the elite class. On IMF speak about poorly targeting. Yes, it's true. But you see, you have to situate it in the proper context. Within our country, when you have largely an informal sector, where you are unable to, say, track the revenues and income of people, is a suggestion that, well, you are going to have a system to track the revenues of people before you implement free SHS. Because, see, I mean, I was working in the Ministry of Education. You are able to track my revenue through Controller and Accountant General. So on that basis, you may come to the conclusion that I should be able to pay for my WASS fee. But you go to, let's say, Abosokai, or, Mokola, and the market woman is there, the revenue is not been able to track. So you may come to the conclusion that on the face value, such a person is incapable of paying his or her WASS school fees at the senior school level. So you see, until we resolve this,
which may not necessarily be the case, because a lot of the Makola women and the Queen mothers actually have more money.
Exactly, but how do you determine it? How do you determine it? And you see, most of the people.
Simple ways.
I'm London respectful.
We have a tax system, don't we?
I'm not. This country, how many people pay tax?
So we streamline it.
But until then, that's what I'm saying, that I don't have a problem when these conversations come up. But until then, are you going to deny a lot of people access to education?
It's not an until then question, because even before then, there are people like you who are of a certain status, who operate on a certain level. You pay your taxes, don't you?
So you see, it's also based on observation.
You know what?
It's also based on observation.
Let's hear Amanda.
It's easy for those categories of people to be taken out anyway because they don't qualify, and then you move it from there.
Okay, I think you know what? I think the intent behind the policy of free education was and always should remain free education. And you cannot say who can afford, who can't, because believe you me, if you can afford to put your kid in private school, you will. So I think the intent behind the policy must always be maintained, which is free education. And an example, for instance, I went over to my mother's house and she had a carpenter who was just raving about the fact that he could put his daughter was going to Wesley Girls only because she had free SHS. And he couldn't afford, to put her in school earlier. And that was an example of someone seeping through what he would not have been able to provide for his daughter, and his daughter is going to Wesley Girls. So one cannot monetize or say or quantify this sort of thing. It is the spirit behind the policy, and the spirit behind the policy is free education means free education. So whether you have to go and, as President Mahama is delivering his State of the Nation address today, rejig the whole IMF deal or whatever it is, there was something behind this free education, and it is for all. And as someone who has tasted private school and normal school as well, just know that, people who can afford to put their kids in private school will put their kids in private school, etc. They're not going to live off the state, basically.
I think it's a bit of a simple, I will not use the other word, way of analyzing it. Here's the other bit. When I was in secondary school, because my grandfather was a major cocoa farmer, I got to, in the latter stage of my secondary education, benefit from a cocoa board scholarship. That nowadays has become something completely different. And not just my grandfather, other members of the family have been cocoa farmers. So I was a beneficiary, right? If we streamline free SHS properly, ensuring that there are those who, by default, will not even let their children get in there. But there are those who have also said that my children are in there, but I can afford, and if you've followed the discussion over time, we've had many of such people on this platform have those discussions. If we streamline it properly and ensure that those who actually need it are those who are getting it, it will also mean that if, let's say, An ordinary person who can't afford it is getting 50 cedis as benefit. That person may end up getting 100 because other people who should not be on it are not on it, and so they'll actually benefit more from the system.
Yes, but,
is that not correct?
But one also has to look at examples of where free education is. The UK, for instance, has free education up to a certain level, and there is no suggestion ever that one would assess, go into the finances or the background, etc. So once you're looking at certain benchmarks, then you compare it to certain nations who have that proper. I mean, the UK has a free education system, and it's just a blanket policy that the government has to sort out. And this is what our government has to do, because they said it, and we must stick to it, because the spirit behind that policy was something that the whole of Ghana embraced.
Yes.
And so whether you have to find the money, you have to find it.
Financial standing is not the same as the youth. And mind you, if you follow the discussion, Kemi Badenoch, if you follow the discussion with Kemi and what she's been saying, even in respect of boosting military spending and taking away from areas like what we are talking about, then you would realize that it's not, again, as simple as you.
It's all about priorities.
Well, hopefully,
I'm telling you, it's all about priorities. It depends on what the government wants to focus. But when you spoke about parents wanting to pay, have you asked yourself which schools are they willing to pay for their hours? Don't let us also create a system where we introduce educational apartheid, where the rich will only be eligible for category A school. Because see, most of the people who say they want to pay, send the person to my hometown, Domiabra, or Oremai school, whether they will pay. You will not want your daughter to go to Oremai and pay. But if it is maybe Achimota or Gehe, you will pay. But how many Ghanaians have the money to pay for those schools? So we should be very mindful of these commentaries. Free SHS, assuming free SHS is no longer there. It's a suggestion that we are going to solve all our economic challenges. Don't let us be simplistic about
this. Stretch to the conversation.
It's not about taking money from free senior high school, but using the money to actually, move whatever we're doing right now to a higher quality. So if you're putting the money into infrastructure, we still have schools under trees. We still have people who, write in sand and so on and so on.
But before free SHS, there was schools under trees.
Yeah, so the whole engagement is so that they see how well they can review and maybe repurpose the monies that are not going to the right use. But Benjamin, let's get into that.
All right, so let's move the conversation forward. This is a conversation we can do for the next hour.
The engagement is skewed and is just towards, do away with the free senior high school in this form.
Let me be very quick with this. The Ghanaian Times newspaper had confab on proper small-scale mining. Mining must not be distractive, VIPA says. Ghana records 44.7 billion trade surplus in 2024. That's Ghana cedis. Over 40% health professionals in Ghana unemployed. That's according to a research. Over 40% health professionals in Ghana unemployed. Don't militarize efforts to stop galamsey, Dr. Kweku cautions. On the back page, UEW, that's the University of Education, Winneba, unveils interventions to transform host surrounding communities and then prioritize dualization of Accra-Kumasi Highway. That's according to Asenso Boakye, former Minister of Roads and Highways. Let me get into a few of these stories very quickly and come to you, and that will be that. So I'll start from page 12. The Vice President, Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, says there is a pressing need for collective action to curb illegal mining in the country. According to her, illegal mining was destroying the country's water bodies, arable lands and forests, threatening the livelihoods of many communities that depend on those natural resources. Opening the maiden parliamentarians conference on restoring the culture of proper small-scale mining in Ghana, she said government alone could not fight illegal mining and would require the support of parliamentarians and traditional leaders. Now, on the bit about health, more than 40% of the overall stock of qualified, the key word, qualified health workers trained in the country remain unemployed, a research has revealed. The health professionals include medical doctors, nurses, and other allied health services professionals. The staggering figure was revealed at the Global Health Workforce Program stakeholders meeting in Accra yesterday, which reminds me just about maybe a year thereabouts, plus or minus. I had an interaction with this young man who spoke to us. He was in the UK. A nurse had struggled to get work here. He was in the UK earning how many times more and being able to save how many thousands of pounds. Of course, the dynamics there, the cost, taxes and all that, but there have been proposals to even export, like Cuba does, medical professionals and make money out of it. I don't know what we could do out of that. And I think those are the two stories.
He was quite excited to get into it. He was nodding his
well, I mean, before the proposal for exportation, I am also of the view that, I mean, in responding to some of these reports and concerns, the government's posture should not necessarily also be about, even in the current state, revoking appointments of ordinary Ghanaians that have had the opportunity to work within the public sector. I have also read research.
Like the MPP did in 2017?
I mean, I have read reports of that. Nobody has been able to prove same. And granted, even without admitting that same was... I have read reports,
evidence of...
Video evidence of people who were sacked.
Safo Mafo and others saying that...
He made a comment, but our position is that it was a commentary that he made based on his... It was just working on his own violation. It was not endorsed by the government.
He was on a frolic of his own?
Yeah, frolic of his own. Nobody endorsed it. Nobody implemented his comment. And I'm saying that, even granted without even admitting sin, that there were few casualties, which, I mean, simplicity, we do not admit.
All casualty be casualty.
No, I'm saying that we don't even admit in the first place. So let me now be straight. We don't even admit even in that in the first place. That he mentioned that, but it never happened. You see, I'm just making a quick comment on this. I don't have a problem when a government comes in or new government comes in and decides to, let's say, revoke the appointments of ordinary Ghanaians, particularly when the previous government did not budget for them, and a lot of them did not even have financial clearance. But I'm just going to make one instance. In GS, where I work, in Ministry of Education, where I worked, where we realized GS is also an agency under the ministry. The last financial clearance that they had to recruit people was in 1st of August. You know, the recruitment is not an event, it goes through a lot of processes. Even after getting your appointment letter, most times it takes about 3 to 6 months before you get your staff ID, which is the basis or the requirement.
Why, just to shorten it for you, which explains why
for you to get onto the payroll.
The Akufo-Addo administration, we had all this chunk of people, like these huge numbers, all of a sudden that we had to employ, right?
No. I am saying that people had employment, let's say around August, some of them June, because you employ based on the financial clearance. Financial clearance is a license to say that you can employ.
Okay.
But after even securing the employment, it takes a while for you to get your staff ID. And the staff ID is the only requirement upon which you can get onto the payroll. But look, a government comes in, he said that people have worked for 1 year, for 6 months, for 2 years, because the system has failed to give them their staff ID. I'm going to lay them off. Interestingly, these same guys get to UK, these countries you are mentioning, they don't even ask of where their origin, their political identification, and they employ them. So I am only talking about how we kill our own people and even make the problem we even complex it. Because you are talking about 40% of people. And the government solution, when you promise 24-hour economy, your solution is also to come and sack people. Especially people who are already working, have worked for a year or two, and because they fail to get their staff ID, you are sacking them. For me, that's...
Amanda is itching to say something. Please go ahead.
Well, I mean...
Amanda is not a politician. I am. So.
Well, I studied African politics at Master's
Yes.
level.
Oh, that's fine.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I honestly think that, you know, when a new government comes in, it does stop continuity when you change positions so quickly. However, for any government, it is about people who support the policy or the leadership of that particular government. So that's probably why they're changing positions. And I think this can only be resolved through a vote in Parliament in terms of how easily can such positions be overturned in the next, cycle sort of thing. So the only people who can resolve this, I think, is at Parliament if a vote is taken. But if not, I think every new party that comes in will do this. And I think, honestly speaking, NDC did learn from MPP in terms of how quickly they turned people over. And that is why they're following suit. Perhaps.
It's actually speculative.
They did not
no, it's speculative. It's speculative.
I don't know about speculative.
It's speculative. Nobody has been able to produce evidence.
Let's move the conversation forward. Someone, though, Joy Atiga, on the live feed reminds me that secondary school education is basically free to a certain extent. It is the boarding component that comes with. To some extent, that is also true. So when we are looking at this free SHS thing, we should also look at the boarding component and how it factors.
What does it mean by secondary school? Because when I was going to school, I paid. I completed secondary school in 2012.
Technically, not
2012.
Not.
Don't calculate my age. Don't calculate my age. Just
Wait, yeah. When we are done with this show, I'll give you a little because you are. Wow. But I have a quick one for you. Nothing else from the Ghanaian Times. The reasons for the loss of the MPP in the last election. I mean, your party has been looking at that, including Wuntumi carrying gold around and showing it on social media, TV, including Nanado's purported brash talk when people raise comments about certain things.
So these are the reasons?
Pardon me?
Are you saying these are the reasons?
Oh, yes, these are some of the things that came up. Have you seen the report?
Which one? Is it the Ashanti region? This is the purported report coming from Ashanti region. Is it that one?
KNUST's research.
Okay.
And then this report internally on some of what has happened. Then the thought that Bawumia will be under the shadow of, the former president. And also Napo's selection. Some saying that it had a negative impact. I mean, what do you think about these comments?
I know there is a committee that has been tasked to come out with a comprehensive report. I'm
asking you as a member of the party, what do you think when it comes to these?
I mean, these are all, you see, when you lose an election, all assumptions looks true. And you see, I mean, that is it. When you lose an election, all assumptions looks true. But the most important thing is that there is a committee that is responsible for coming out with all these findings.
Right.
We will not shy away from them. We will address them. Where it requires that we take critical decisions, apologizing, reorganizing, re-energizing our base, doing the right things. Obviously, that is the essence of such a report. But I mean, I would say that most of these are draft documents that are coming in. Sometimes even some of them from different regions. So it is the cumulative effect of all these reports coming from all these eastern regions that will be able to point fingers that this and this and this and this caused us. But I mean, certainly, they are not far from the truth. Of course, I don't want to pick each item that this happened, that happened, that happened, because these are views and opinions from people that they interviewed. We'll take all into consideration. But for now, for me, if you ask me what is most important is that as a party, we should be mindful of also commentaries you make about. I mean, you are an independent person, so you can make commentaries about it. But for us, because, I mean, people have been mentioned, people have been blamed on all those things. I'll just call that we become quite calm about it. We, in terms of our public commentaries on it, be very measured. And at the end of the day, when the committee finishes work, we'll adopt the findings and the recommendations.
Right. And Amanda, let's quickly look at some of your stories.
Sure.
We are looking at the Overseer newspaper.
The Overseer newspaper is leading on the fact that Mahama is to deliver the State of the Nation address today, and critical national issues include security, the economy, agriculture, education, and energy, because as we know, there's significant challenges across multiple sectors. He's also expected to provide an in-depth analysis of the country's debt stock and economic trajectory. And he's also going to be focusing on agriculture and food security, providing an update on that, as well as the state of the cocoa board and Ghana's cocoa industry. So it's going to set the tone perhaps for the rest of his leadership in terms of what he says are the critical issues and how he's going to resurrect this economy, particularly because, Ghanaians voted him in because of the economy, essentially. So I think if he doesn't expand too much on the State of the Nation address, but keeps it simple as to how he's going to achieve these goals, we can see if the people he's appointed do so in the next 4 to 8 years.
I'm curious.
There are other stories
on the same story. Kwesi, why the need to remind the president to be honest in terms of what he inherited? Why the need to caution Mahama about his maiden State of the Nation's address? I mean, you're waxing lyrical. By you, I mean the party, the NPP, is saying, be honest. Whatever you came to find, that's what you say. Why the need to caution him? Is there a concern that he will not be honest?
No.
Is there a concern that he might reveal things that, you'd like him not to reveal?
No, if I'm being honest, it means reveal the true things. He is a politician, and we cannot pretend the kind of policies that we play in this country. I mean, recently he spoke about the fact that we've criminally mishandled the economy, which the variables and the figures, the macroeconomic figures that's not supposed to. So the expectation is that at least you give a true account and true representation of what you inherited, so that become a fair basis. We admit that particularly post-2020, the macroeconomic variables and indicators did not have a good outlook. But quickly we also came to admit and also made mention that we are on the path of recovery. So we expect that at least his speech will find some of these expressions.
Would you not rather wait so that there's some gaps in his speech?
The reason why we are giving such harmless reminder is that we don't want a situation where he paints some looming picture and use as an excuse to run away from his responsibilities and the promises that he mentioned. Because it appeared he even knew the economy well in opposition.
Well, I think
he's in government.
Ghanaians are feeling, the looming economy, and so I don't think whatever he says, it's what people feel in their pockets, and it's how he can address that. I think that matters.
Ghanaians have never seen this economy being good before, ever since I was born.
Well, at least this time round, we won't keep on spending money.
Amanda, are there other stories you want to look at?
Yes, the other story I thought, there's two more stories, but one that was quite good is in the overseas, is one titled, "The NPP will rot in opposition if they present Barnier in 2028. And this person who says it, which is a former polling station chairman, I won't say his name because it's quite a strong statement to make, says that Dr. Barnier, as flag bearer for the 2028 elections, is highly suicidal because he failed woefully to win votes even from his own region. How do we present such a candidate? And this person also suggested that Kennedy Ajachwon shouldn't lead the new patriotic party, which is a very interesting comment, but I really don't
Just 20 seconds on that.
But I just don't believe in personalities per se. Okay. And I think that one must always be able to control how they come across, to not always be so emotional, etc. So I don't believe in personalities, and let's see what happens for 2028.
We have to move on very quickly. Kwesi, any wrap-up thoughts?
I've heard similar comments from people associated and sympathizers of Ken and Baumia. I am of the view that it's too early for such commentaries. We've set up a committee to come out with some of these findings. Let's wait for the committee to come out with these findings.
Okay.
Then based on that, we can make a decision. At the end of the day, the power resides with the people, the polling station executives, the party people. Whoever they decide, we will support.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Of course, we had Amanda Clinton of the Clinton Consultancy. She's a lawyer. She joined the conversation. And we also had Kwesi Kwarteng, former PRO, Ministry of Education. This is how we're going to hang the curtains on this discussion. But up next, Haruna Mubarak will serve you sports. Do stay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports. Here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. The Ghana Football Association, they have announced that on March 7, Premier League football will resume following their decision to halt the competition after the death of Kumasi Asante Kotoko supporter Nanaya Frimpong, affectionately called Nana Pole. His funeral will be happening on March 6, and the Ghana Football Association says that after the funeral, the competition would resume. Kotoko, in a press conference earlier this week, had announced that they were also ready to compete when the funeral of their late supporter is finally done. And the Ghana Football Association announced that, yes, the competition will resume on March 7th. One of the reasons that the Porcupine Warriors gave for their decision to resume footballing activities is the fact that they have got players who are training and that they would have to pay them. They also explained that there's a calendar which is being provided by CAF, and the Ghana Football Association will be expected to submit Ghana's representatives in this year's CAF Interclub competitions. Hence, they should be willing to participate in footballing activities. So the Ghana Football Association would meet the calendar and submit Ghana's representatives to participate in CAF Interclub footballing competition. They, however, insist that they will pursue the matter to secure justice for their late fan, Nana Poli. Well, one of the security measures the Ghana Football Association put in place is to increase the number of police officers at match venues. One of them was experienced during the FA Cup run of 16 matches that were played last weekend. But the head coach of Dreams FC, Abdul Karim Zito, he says that the Ghana Football Association should consider adding military men to the security or police officers who will be assigned to match venues. He was speaking to Channel 1 News.
The police people are doing very well, but if they will add some few soldiers for the meantime, it will be better. This is about law. The law doesn't give you the opportunity to kill or to even wound somebody. So to me, I felt for instance, if I were to be Kotoko coach, I wouldn't play that match that day. Why? And we all learned that during the pre-match, they promised bringing 120 policemen. There was some proposed thing by Kotoko, and I think when they go by it, it will help us. For instance, the security, CCTV cameras and so forth. It is everywhere, even in cars. In my car, I have CCTV camera there. So the moment you come there, I see it. Who is closer to my car? So that thing is very, very important. I know it won't be easy now, but I think the measures laid down.
Now let's hear from Ghana midfielder Mohamed Kudus. He describes playing the FIFA World Cup as the biggest for any footballer. According to him, there isn't any competition under the earth which is bigger than playing in the FIFA World Cup.
It was really nice. I think World Cup is the best tournament in football, in my personal opinion. You know, I think Champions League is also up there, but World Cup, yeah, it was just different in Qatar, my first time. You know, yeah, like I said again, family was flew all over there to come support. So, was amazing feeling. We didn't go as far as I would have loved us to, but it was nice to experience the World Cup. You know, because it has been a tournament we all enjoyed back sitting on the TV watching, you know, so to be part of it was great.
Given what you've achieved in your career so far and where you've come from, do you look back and think about how far you've come?
Yeah. I think it's always good to know and get the balance of being grateful, knowing where you come from, and also not being satisfied with where you are at this moment. So, yeah, I definitely look back, you know, and yeah, I definitely come from far, but at the same time, I try to get the balance of not looking at that and then feeling satisfied or thinking like I've made it now, because now I don't believe I still have a lot under my belt to come. So for me, just trying to find the balance, like I said, of knowing how far I've come and being grateful to God and all the people around me who supported for that, but also knowing that there's still a lot more to do.
Let's still stay on Mohamed Kudus. He says that there are many better talents in Nima than him. And according to him, it is important such talents are given opportunities to showcase what God has given to them.
Just open up more opportunities from where I'm coming from, because I believe there's more, even better talents than I am that I saw growing up, but they haven't made it cause of opportunity. So I think that's what I'll try to change. Like coming from Africa, like just try and find ways to bring more opportunities on kids in football, you know, to get the chances to make it in Europe.
You spoke about family quite a bit. How important is family to you? And do you think it's important to have good people around you to help you succeed in football?
100%. I think you need people who will be there regardless, you know. Even if I'm not playing today, God forbid, like, there are some people around me that I know, they will be there regardless of whatever position I'm in, you know. And yeah, in a position like football, definitely you have a lot of new friends, people try to come around, and it's easy to do that. But I think that's why my family, because I know they will be there regardless. They were thick or thin, yeah.
You've had a crazy journey in football so far. It's mad to think you're still only 24 years old. What does the future hold for Kudus, and what do you want to achieve on and off the pitch?
Oh, a lot of the pitch is, like I said, with the position I'm in today, is to, first of all, use that as a tool to change the perspective of where I'm from. Like I said, from like a ghetto, you know, put more light on there to show there's talents, to attract more interest and create opportunity for guys into sports, and yeah, use what I have to impact the community, you know. So yeah, there's definitely plans of the pitch on doing that, and yeah, it's all based on trying to just put more awareness and then create more opportunities for guys who want to play football, and you know, because that's my part and that's the easiest way I can help with, and then so yeah.
Mohamed Kudus there speaking to rising talents. Today, the Central Regional Score will be happening at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. There's also the Ashanti Regional 1, which will be happening at the Baba Sports Stadium. And we have got you covered. My colleague, Nathaniel Arthur, is currently in Cape Coast, and he was at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium to take a look at preparations ahead of the competition, which starts 10 a.m. today.
Well, these tracks and that pitch is where we'll see all of the action in the much-awaited Central Regional Athletics Competition for second cycle institutions. This is a traditional sports competition where most of the talents that eventually become national stars are developed. There's an age-long rivalry that will be talked about a great deal when tomorrow comes and when the competition begins. One of the most important things is that we're going to see an electrifying atmosphere in the stands. What we also see there are some students who are trying to get some therapy and also inspire themselves psychologically as they get themselves ready for the big competition. But the key talking points here at the Cape Coast Stadium amongst the students and everyone else here will be some key talents, including Joseph Ando of Infantipim School, who became the overall best athlete for Zone 3. Now, he is a champion in the 100 meters and 200 meters events. And of course, in the girls' competition, everybody will be talking about Believe Makafui of Ifutu Sektek. Now, she is multi-talented and takes part in the 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters events. Everyone will be looking forward to what Believe will be able to do here on these very big tracks. We can also talk about the age-long rivalry between Infantipim School and St. Augustine's College. Well, Infantipim School overpowered St. Augustine's College and won the Zone 3 championships and are coming in with a lot of confidence. We can also talk about Adesado College, who won the Zone 1 competition and are coming here to prove that they are the true champions. Of course, we do not really see Wesley Girls and Holy Child establishing the dominance that we've known them for. That dominance has been taken over by Edinaman Senior High School, and they have to be watched out greatly when the competition begins here at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. So it's all ready to go. The pitch is looking lush green for all of the field action, and the stands will be filled with students who are eagerly wanting to support their respective athletes to reach for the top. We will be here to bring you all of the records when they are set and all of the big moments when they happen. So let's look forward to it, and you follow us on television and on radio and online and on social media as well. Nathaniel Atto from the center of the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. For Joy News, Joy Sports, and Joy Prime.
Now let's hear from the headmaster of St. Augustine's College, Reverend Father Dr. Patrick Appiah. He says that this is a competition they are going all out to win the ultimate.
Over the next 2 days, we expect the best from St. Augustine's College. Yes, we placed second to Infanticum in the Inter-School Athletics competition, where in the field of sprint, the 100 meters and the 20 meters, they took the center stage. But equally, we have great sprint in the long distance, and that is where they need to watch us. Last year, they took a lot of gap for us, close to 100 plus. But this year, at the Inter-School Athletics, 28 points were the difference, and that is not a story to tell. We have done it before. In 2019, they took the Inter-School Athletics, and we came back, beating them to the Super Zonas, being the first. St. Augustine's College has a history of persevering. Perseverance in this will conquer all. And in these few days, St. Augustine's College will prove to the world that perseverance indeed conquers all.
There's something about young people displaying exceptional talent that just gives me goosebumps. But you know what they say? Hakuna Matata. What does that mean? Fantastic. I'm privileged to be engaging some of the actresses and actor who will be playing some of your favorite characters in The Lion King. Students from Association International School joined me this morning to discuss the adaptation of The Lion King. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. So I have with me here this morning young Simba, obviously the gentleman among us, Jude Felly. And then we have Puma, Simone Maya Lawson, and we have someone playing Timon, Nura Jawad. How do you feel sitting here this morning, getting ready to display such exceptional talent for the world to see? And this is a big film. I want to start with you, young Simba. Is it okay if I call you young Simba? I'll call you by your character names. Sure. How's it feeling?
It's really fun.
Yeah?
The past few days, we've just been going over, because we finished every scene and we're just going over, making sure everything is perfect. It's really fun with all my friends. Just
right.
Like, for example, my favorite part of the play is Hakuna Matata, where I'm with two of my best friends.
Yeah.
And I finished that with my best friends. It's very fun.
Simone, before you were selected to play this character, I'm sure you had already watched Lion King. Was there anything about Lion King that you really liked? And so when you got the opportunity now to portray it, it just all comes together nicely for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I really like the fact that it was kind of like a family story. And you have the villain, which is the uncle. His name is Scar. And you just
Speak up for me, Dad.
You just have a sense of family, especially when Simba gets, he runs away after Mufasa dies, and we come and we make him our own, we make him our brother, we treat him as a family, and we welcome him into our home.
So it's the theme of family for you. Nuru, what about you? What's the highlights of it all for you?
I think it's the fact that even animals, they have their responsibilities to play. As in the play, they call it the circle of life. So every animal there has something to do. And Simba, as a young cub, he was betrayed, manipulated by his uncle. He was so naive. He didn't know what was happening. So when Pumbaa and I found him, we taught him that Hakuna Matata, no worries, Yeah. But then later on, he meets Nala, he changes his mind, he goes back, and then he takes on the role of the king of the Pride Lands. And I think that just fascinates me because, well, animals too, they have a role to play, they have their own responsibility.
This is also interesting. I'm really excited. I'm visibly excited. How long have you been rehearsing for?
September last year.
Wow. Is it intense?
Yes, now
Simba, tell me about the rehearsals. How's it going?
It's been going really well. There were some parts, because, you know, there's some fears that I've had to embrace for the role. It's been half a year so far, so it's been a fun experience that I would really enjoy doing again.
Simone, is there anything about your personal life that you had to channel into this character?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
My character, I don't want to sound rude, but he's very dumb. So
I mean, if he is, he is.
I have to act extremely stupid when I'm on stage. I always have to act lost. I'm always the last person to understand what's happening in the moment. So it's
Is that
very
fun for you?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get the details out there so that our audience don't miss it. We know this is happening. When is this happening? Let me let you tell our audience when this is happening. But it's the 6th to 8th March, right? Where?
Association International.
Okay. And tickets are going for a cool 200 Ghana cedis for adults, and for children 150 Ghana cedis. It's so cheap. Everyone should make it a point to watch this. I want to give you each a minute to speak directly to our audience, inviting them to watch you display exceptional talent, this readaptation of Lion King. Everyone, I believe, who sees Lion King would love to watch you guys do it again. So let me start with you, Nuru. Look into your camera over there and tell our audience why they cannot afford to miss this.
Okay, so I'm sure you might all have watched the Lion King movie and maybe even the Broadway version, but I'm here to tell you all that the AIS version of this is going to blow your mind. It is going to be flabbergasting, so do not miss it. Come to the AIS Auditorium from the 6th to the 8th of March. There are 2 times. You can pick whichever you're comfortable with. And just come and support us. We will not disappoint you.
Oh, okay. Young Simba, it's your turn now. You're everyone's favorite, you know.
I think that we've all seen the movie, the Broadway, and we're recreating it here in Ghana, so the people who can't really go abroad, they can watch it here. It's also not that expensive. You can show up, 6th of March, a public holiday, everyone will be free. There's one at 2:30, then 6 p.m. the next day, and 6 p.m. that same day, then 6 p.m. the next day, and then on Saturday, which will be our last day, 2:30, and then 6 again. So you have 5 opportunities to come. Why not come?
Okay. You guys speak so well. I'm so impressed. You have the last word. But before I come to you, what's your favorite part about playing young Simba?
So when I was younger, I used to really love The Lion King. I remember in 2019 when I went to America, where the live, not the Broadway, but the live action where they had the actual animals came out, and we were in the cinema watching it in 3D. I remember I was just so happy and excited.
Aww.
And I used to listen to the soundtrack of the movie. And when I first found out it was The Lion King, and we're doing a show, I was like, I'm not going to audition to it. Then my sister told me that I would be the perfect fit for young Simba.
And she was right, wasn't she?
She was.
All right, Simone, you have the last word. Invite our audience to come and see the readaptation of The Lion King by students of Association International.
I feel like all of you should feel welcome to come and watch our adaptation of The Lion King. It's going to be very good. We have our own touch to it. It's not just the same old Lion King that you've all been watching. We have our AIS special Lion King. I feel like everybody should come and watch it.
Okay, so we have young Simba Jude Fairley, Puma is Simone Maya Lawson, and Timon is Nuru Jawad. These are some key characters in The Lion King, and they are students from Association International School giving you an adaptation, and you don't want to miss it. It's happening from the 6th of March to the 8th of March 2025 at the AIS Auditorium. You have 5 opportunities, like Simba said. Don't miss it. There you have it. The details are on your screens. There's a phone number right there you can call if you want more details, 0302 777 735 or 0307 032 103. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and I wish you the very best. I will be there to watch you, so please give us a show. All right, that's it for this belt of conversations, but there's so much more coming your way on the AM show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the AM show. Let's engage some social scientists and students from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. They're all reading Master of Science in Development Management, and a part of their coursework is taking them to the far and near of this country, helping to propel the development agenda. In the studio with me this morning, Dela Nyamwame, Bako, Jonathan, Asiedu Ama Ansa, all students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, reading MSc Development Management. And Social Entrepreneurship and Philanthropy, SEEP, is what's brought you here today. Let me start with the lady. Tell us about SEEP.
Okay, thank you very much.
Refresh our memory because we've had this conversation before.
Yeah. So, Social Entrepreneurship and Philanthropy is a course that was set up by KNUST for development management students. It is the bridge between our theoretical studies on how to solve developmental issues and then having the practicality of it. You go out there, you go and then you experience it for yourself. You see what exactly to go through in bringing up development management. So it's an opportunity for you to actually see what is on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
And Jonathan, from my understanding of this, you all assigned a project, like group teams to pursue a particular project, and you all have a particular project that you're pursuing, but you all come together under the SEEP umbrella, and you're promoting this.
Yes.
Briefly, tell us about what you are working on.
So the SEEP started as a coursework in 2016, just to let people know and understand the perspective. So my team, we are based in the Ga East Municipal Assembly, and when we started this SEEP, we got the statistics from Ghana Statistical Service that about 14.7% of people in Ghana, graduates, are unemployed. And so we got pricked up and then we said, so what can we do? What is bringing up this gap? And so we started researching and then, speaking to people. And then we got to know that most of the times, students from the basic level entering into the second cycle institutions do not even know or understand what they really want to do. So they are being forced by their parents to take up courses which probably their parents couldn't read. So maybe some parents wanted to read law, so they just pushed that, oh, go and read law. They wanted to be a medical doctor, but they didn't get it.
So that's the problem.
Yes,
and how are you filling that gap?
Yeah, so we organized a sustainable career guidance and counseling for the students in the school, together with some professionals and the career guidance and counseling units of the Education Office of Ga East.
Okay.
So at the event, students took, basically the job that you need to do, you need to tailor it towards your traits. And so we let the student take up the personality trait test, and we had a discussion at the conference, and then we had some professionals coming to engage them. We had a medical doctor, we had a doctor. Yes, so it was a very extensive event where students even showcased their talents.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you. Mr. Nyamwame, what are you working on?
So my group is working in the Adan East, and one of the biggest problems in the Adan East is child trafficking. We did a collaboration with a few organizations, and we found that as of 2013, there were over 200,000 children who have been trafficked to around the Volta Lake, who were involved in fishing from as low as 3 years old to 10 years old. And so,
3 years old?
Yeah, in fishing. Yes, a lot of them end up drowning, a lot of them end up dying and things like that. And we are working with a few organizations to help integrate some of the children back into society. And we found out that even when the children are rescued, oftentimes they don't integrate very well because they go to school and then maybe they don't have school uniforms, they do not have basic things. So we worked with a few organizations to integrate a few children back into the society. We got them back in school, got them uniforms, and then to make it sustainable, we helped their guardians with their businesses so that they can fund the children while they are in school.
Yeah.
And some of the children, we got them into apprenticeship where they would be able to fend for themselves. Those were the elder children.
Fantastic idea. What about you, darling?
Okay,
sorry.
so I picked up a school in Pokwase. The infrastructure was very dilapidated. There were no furnitures, there were no souvenirs or books, stationaries for students to study. There were cases where people had to leave the school because they couldn't afford school uniforms or very, very basic stuff. So we picked it up and then decided to provide them with these things, repaint their school, get them some furniture in order for you to be comfortable. Now we had a lot of people coming. People are starting to come back to the school.
Wonderful. But I know that there's a conference, right? The SEEP conference, and then there's the award ceremony as well. Give us the details of that. Let me start with you, Jonathan.
Yes, so the SEEP conference is basically, this wonderful project you've heard about. It's an opportunity for us to, share with our colleagues what entails, what were some of the challenges we met, what are the opportunities. Sometimes, I'm very happy when I see such things because we know USAID is getting out of the system. So such initiatives are, such conferences are opportunities for us to learn and leverage on how we're able to network on use our social networks to push developmental agendas.
Okay. Date and time, and is it open to the public?
Yes, it's actually open to everybody. Anybody who is wants to be in the development stage. It's happening on the 1st of March in Kumasi, Amono Neza Conference Hall. Starts at 9 a.m. And I would love everybody to actually be there.
Okay. And Dela, are you looking for sponsorship? Ask for it.
Yes, we are looking for sponsorship. We would love to have corporate bodies, NGOs, government agencies to provide us with support. Next year's groups would also be going on these journeys, and it will be nice for them to have some support. So if you are a development organization, a government body, a para-government body, please show up at the conference and then meet the students and meet our facilitators and the department and sponsor us.
Well, there's Dela Nyamwame. We also have Beko Jonathan and Asiedu Amansan, all social scientists, students of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, reading MSc Development Management and standing in the gap or bridging the gap between socio-economic development and the gaps that already exist with their individual and team projects. Please make it a point to attend and help them any way you can. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And there's still so much more coming your way. We haven't even started the conversations yet. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back on the AM show. We continue with our conversations, and now we have in the studio SKA Global. It's an all-women's group, and they are seeking to help, well, some of the underprivileged in society, including the elderly. And joining me for a conversation this morning, we have Eunice Ifya Adoma Treme. She's organizer of SKA Global. Eunice, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Right. I'm just curious. I see in your shirt SKA, and then I see Alzheimer's Dementia Awareness. But tell us about why you started this group, SKA Global.
Thank you for the opportunity, and then greetings to all your viewers. Let me start from how it started. SKA Global was formed somewhere in 2017 by two phenomenal women by the name Beatrice Nanabrobe and Christine Amuzu. And our main purpose, just as you are seeing on my T-shirt, is creating awareness on Alzheimer's and dementia. And then also helping the elderly and then the underprivileged in the society. So that is our main aim and the reason why this association was created.
I see. And so it's been a few years now.
Yes, please.
How have things, indeed, how have things been? So that's about 8 years. You are in your 8th year.
Yes.
What has the journey been like?
It has been a little bit rough, on a roller coaster. I would say that because most of the fundings are being done by us. We don't have any sponsors. We do the funding ourselves. And then, it's sometimes difficult when you are funding such programs because we take care of the elderly, we do the awareness, and then we go to different regions in the country. So one will ask, how is it being done? So what we do is we do donations from our members. We take it from our members, and then also do silver collection. So if you ask me how it has been, I'll say that it hasn't been easy. It has been a little bit rough.
And so this is also a call for corporate bodies, people of goodwill to come on board.
To come and then help us so that we'll be able to do what we want to do. Because it is not easy. A lot of people do not really know about Alzheimer's and dementia.
Right.
Because it has been tagged that when you are an old person, that means quotes and unquotes, you are a witch or a wizard because of the symptoms that you exhibit. So we saw the need that we need to educate people, give them training, especially the families and the caregivers, for them to understand that when you have such a person in your house, it doesn't mean that the person is a witch or a wizard. The person is either exhibiting the trait of dementia, which is the symptoms coming from the Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
So we need to take care of them. And then all these people, they need the care, the attention that they need. But the caregivers, you know, sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah.
You know, when you are trying to, how do I even put it, cope with such situations, it becomes a little bit difficult.
And that's where you also come in, because you are educating them. There's a training you're organizing. But just to put it into context, Alzheimer's, dementia, of course, as you age, certain things happen with the brain and other coordinations, and it impacts your health, it impacts your general quality of life, even your independence. Your independence. Because there are things you can no longer do for yourself.
Free movement, and then, you know, it's something that is progressive. It starts from an early stages. And then as we are even young, some youngsters are even exhibiting it. So it is something that is progressive. It doesn't just start in a day.
And interestingly, for some of these, as far as I know, there's no real cure
for it, but you can manage it.
You have to manage them, which is why the caregiver, it's important
need to
for
be,
them
trained.
So when is your next training as far as the caregivers?
We don't have a training at the moment. We have an awareness program coming on the 1st of March at Begro.
Oh, okay. Begro.
Yes, Begro. The Queen Mother of Begro is part of us. So she has given us the opportunity to be able to come to Begro, to create the awareness, talk to the caregivers, talk to the family, and also seek for sponsorship, just as you even mentioned.
Okay. Well, we wish you the very best in this endeavor. In other countries, they have homes for the elderly and all of that. We don't really have that in our system. So this is a yeoman's job you're actually doing. Is there a number you'd like to put out if any corporate bodies, any people of goodwill are interested in sponsoring you?
Yes,
what number is that?
Can I put it on air, please?
You can put it on air.
0244 757366. I'll repeat, 0244 757366.
One last time, slowly.
0244 757366.
Right. And that is Unicefia Adomatreme. She's the organizer of SKA Global. It's an all-women's group, and here's what they are doing. They are helping the underprivileged and the elderly in society, and they are creating awareness about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. It's different manifestations as well. We salute you on the good job you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And all roads lead to Begro on the 1st
of March. Yes, please.
Right.
Thank you.
Do stay with us. We still have a lot more action coming your way on the AM show. We'll be right back. So here we are. Today is the big day. Mr. President will be delivering the State of the Nation address. What is your State of the Nation? Well, the minority in Parliament has called on the President to be truthful about the country he inherited from the previous administration as he delivers his maiden State of the Nation address to Parliament today. Of course, you caught some excerpts there, some reflections. We'll let you hear more from Parliament in terms of what the truth is and what their expectations are. And after that, we'll come into the studio. So let's catch some more snippets of that before we come into the studio. Right now, and joining me in the studio, we have Dr. Jabir Mohammed. He joins the conversation. Of course, he is an economist and political risk analyst. Okay, so he is the University of Ghana lecturer at the School of Business. My apologies. He's a senior lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. We have Mark Bedu Aboagye. He is with the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, and he also joins the conversation. Then we have Dr. Joseph Obing of GUTA, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, and we have Dr. John Osai Kwapong. a CDD fellow. All of them join the conversation. We also have Dr. Theo Echampo. He's an economist and political risk analyst. But let me start from the studio. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Let me find out as well who is on Zoom yet. Dr. Echampo, Theo Echampo, do we have you joining the conversation, sir? All right.
Yes,
so.
Yes.
Okay, you are the boss, Dr. Echampo. Thank you for joining. We also have Dr. John Osai Kwapong. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you too, Benjamin.
It's a pleasure having you. Dr. Joseph Obeng Guta, good morning to you, sir. In your trademark hat. Dr. Obeng, good morning. You would have to unmute, Dr. Obeng.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just wanted to do a sound check to ensure that everybody is on board before we kickstart the conversation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
So I shall start from the studio. Dr. Mohammed, here we are. It's the State of the Nation address. And now some are saying, oh, come and deliver the truth, what you inherited and all of that. But from the economic standpoint, what do you see from where we are as a country with the IMF program and everything, and what your expectations are in terms of the State of the Nation address? What are the things that have to be spoken about?
Well, thank you, and good morning to you, and good morning to all our listeners. The State of the Nation address is a very important one because every president in the Fourth Republic had delivered such an important program in the history of Ghana. I believe that the economy is a very important element when it comes to the State of the Nation address. And of course, the IMF program had been with us, and roughly we have done almost 2 years. It's going to be 3 years. And the amount of money that has come in so far has helped to shape the economy in a particular way. So I expect the president to be in a better position to present to us or to present to the nation the true state of the country, especially regarding the program and how we are going to communicate or how we are going to push things into a better position so that at least at the end of the day, we are going to be in a better position as a country. Now, if you look at the inflationary stance of the country today, we are about 23%. It was way about 54%. And now it's currently at 23%, which means that at least we still need to put things in a better position so that we can ensure that the living standard of the people in the country are better off. You know, we measure the living standard of the people by the nature of the cost of living. And inflation is one of the key elements when we come to measuring the cost of living. So I expect that we are able to put in strategies and measures in place to ensure that we have a solid and a sound economy in terms of cost of living, in that because every Ghanaian is looking at how they can cater for their basic needs. And if inflation is at a high as 23%, you can imagine what people are going to be experiencing. So better strategies should be put in place to be able to, gauge the interaction between the citizen and that of the economic outlook of the country. Now, if you look at the other elements, we're speaking about 24-hour economy. And 24-hour economy is the key element of the country. Is a key issue that the NDC administration used to come into power. So what are we putting in place? What are the measures, what are the strategies that the president is going to put in place to ensure that the 24-hour economy come to stream and work efficiently? If you look at it critically, you realize that you want to work 24 hours. Look at the system, electricity. Are we going to have light throughout the period? 24-hour economy, we need to have power. And energy is very important to drive that particular force.
Stable power.
Stable power. So we need to have that. So I want to see a concrete measures that the president is going to put in place to ensure that we have a stable power so that the 24-hour economy can run efficiently. So I think basically this.
Basically, so succinctly, those are some of the things you would look at. And especially as you talk about inflation, as I come to Mark, then from the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I'm sure you're going to also be contemplating borrowing. I'm sure Dr. Obeng would be doing that, but borrowing as well in terms of being able to do business and the cost of doing business. But from your standpoint as the Chamber of Commerce, what are some of the issues that you would be looking at, hoping to hear the status of in respect of our national life?
Thank you very much. I think the state of the economy is everybody knows. Every Ghanaian has his own way of assessing the state of the economy. Your pocket at least will tell you, and whether you have a job or not will tell you the current state of the economy. But I would prefer that as the president, he should now be able to tell us exactly what the situation is before we come out with the various policies to address what the challenges are. If you look at the one His Excellency Nana Addo presented prior to his exit on the 3rd of January, that for me is his handing over note to the current president. I am expecting that the president will either accept those things that are in it or deny them or dispute them. Obviously, there have been several disputes about what was presented to us on the 3rd of January. The president clearly said, the former president, that the economy is not broke and that he's handing a very resilient and robust economy to the current president. I want to know whether indeed he was handed a very resilient economy, because the data that we have is not suggesting that the economy is as resilient as was presented to us. So once it's been there for at least 2 months, and if you add the transition period, close to 3 months, he has all the necessary information, the data, to put it to us that this is what I inherited. Is it good? Was the economy broke? Are we going to have challenges going forward? Then we will look at all these issues. He made mention of inflation, and obviously inflation of 23% is very high. For an economy that is resilient, we don't expect that you have an inflation of 23%. For the economy that is resilient, we don't expect that you have a policy rate of 27%, an interest rate as high as 35%. Economy that is resilient and want to support businesses, we don't expect to see all these numerous nuisance taxes running around and affecting businesses. So for me, it's just a way to either check and tell us that what Nana Addo presented to us is indeed what the state of the economy was and what he is going to do going forward. I remember prior to the exit of the president again, the Ministry of Finance, they told us that we've turned the corner, which some of us challenged because of the difficulties that we were going through. I want to know whether indeed at the time they were telling us that they've turned the corner, we had indeed turned the corner. So we, all of us, for me, it should be as straightforward as it is. Because if you want to reset an economy or any situation, you should know the current condition before you'll be able to come out with policies and ideas to solve any challenge. So for businesses, we are looking forward that the president will tell us what exactly the state of the economy is, as we have seen, and also tell us how he also is going to navigate the economy through the various challenges that I have enumerated and my brother has also enumerated. So that's what we are waiting to see this morning. For me, I'm not sure that it's going to be any whitewash. It's not the same party that is continuing for them to tell us that we have done A, B, C, D, when indeed people know the condition in which they find themselves. So now that is a different government, we need a fair assessment of Ghanaian state, the economy, all the sectors. I also remember that we were told we have constructed a number of roads, so many kilometers. I'm sure that the president will tell us whether indeed those roads have been constructed. The Agenda 111 that we were told they were in several forms of levels of completion. Recently, I heard that only one was fully completed, even without all the necessary equipment that were needed to run a very efficient hospital. I expect that all these things will also be labeled galamsey issues and security issues. So we are all hoping that the true state, as others have said, that the truth is what we want. It's only then that we will be able to come out with programs and policies to be able to move forward.
All right. Thank you for those thoughts. I have an interesting comment come through. Cassius Simumba says, I would also like to share the state of my nation, Zambia, But today we are talking about Ghana, so let's focus on Ghana for now. I don't know whether you're watching us all the way from Zambia, but let me also bring in Dr. Joseph Obeng. I want us to hear from all those who are in the thick of things when it comes to business. Dr. Obeng, for you, what is the current state of the economy, and what are some of the aspects of the economy, especially when it comes to business, trade, that you would like to hear President Mahama touch on today in his SONA?
So, cost of doing business is too high in this country. The taxes that we pay are so numerous, and they are not even simplified. They are very complex. And so, all that I want to hear is the mechanism or the measures that the president will put in place to stabilize the local currency, to bring down inflation, to bring down interest rates, and then also stabilize the foreign exchange. This all that the business people would need the stability so that we can do our business. We want to also hear the policy direction of government by way of rationalizing the tax system, as the president himself has been saying, because he said that we have to rationalize the tax system. What mechanism is he putting in place to reduce the taxes, to make them simplified, make them more affordable, and then make them more uniform? Because if you look at the VAT is such that you cannot even comply with it, because one tax system does have 3 forms. And so we need all these measures that will streamline, or as the president himself says, you rationalize the tax system. We need all these things. Then I'm also expecting that the president will talk about the fixed tax system that was promised, the spare parts trading, because he said that he will give us fixed tax system. It means that if you import spare parts, there's going to be a fixed amount of duty that will be known to you that you pay. And that is also a game changer for the trading community, because if that one succeeds, it means that it will be replicated to other commodity lines, commodities that we import into the country. Then I'm expecting to hear something from a 24-hour economy.
Right.
The incentive the government is going to do, because although he's going to lobby business people to do this 24-hour economy, but he has to provide the incentives and then create the enabling environment that will attract the business people to patronize it and enhance on productivity, because it's all about enhancing on productivity, increasing on production. If you increase production, it means that you have to employ more hands. That will make the shift system possible for us to achieve the 24-hour policy. Then, of course, we can't talk about taxes, and all these things, where we do not look at the structure of our expenditure. Our expenditure, as I normally say, is overpriced. We have to find a way to scrutinize how we spend in this country.
Doc, when you say our expenditure is overpriced, what exactly do you mean?
Overpriced because if you look at our procurement system, it's not helping. Because how many times have you not heard that a project that maybe MTN is doing is social responsibility, is building a school for a community, cost about maybe 600,000 Ghana cedis. Government will do it and it will cost about 115. It will cost about 1 point something billion and all that. It means that we are wasting. The misappropriation there is just too much. And so we have to scrutinize and evaluate. So we have to bring policies that will ensure value for money expenditure. If we do not do that, then it's a waste of time, all these things that we're talking about, because then government will get the tax and it will be overused, and the money will go to just a few people who got the opportunity of the expenditure. Yeah.
Right. Let me also bring in Dr. John Osai Kwapong. From your end, what would be the snapshot of what you see and what your initial expectations would be of Mr. President when he delivers his maiden State of the Nation address today? And of course, I would like you also to look at the governance aspects of issues as well.
Yeah, good morning once again. We've been hearing him as well as members of his administration talk about the kind of economy they came to meet, the state of affairs of the country as they inherited it. In the lead up to the 2024 election, I think Ghanaians themselves also knew and felt the kind of country they were living in. So on that part, I'm not sure if there'll be anything new that Mr. President would share that Ghanaians didn't feel, and therefore that is what made them vote the way they did in December.
Right.
On the governance issues, and what I expect though is that in this maiden State of the Nation for his second presidency, I expect him to outline the key governance reforms that his administration is looking at. But more importantly, the timelines around those reforms. I mean, he promised some key things during the campaign. So for me, it's setting that stage and saying, okay, over the next year, given the state of the governance situation in the country that we inherited, these are some of the things that we plan to do. More importantly for me is he also outlined a 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana.
Indeed.
And that is what I am looking forward to seeing, an updated report. I know the 120 days is not up, but I would like to hear progress towards attaining the things that was laid out in that 120-day social contract.
I see. Interesting points you make, because the 120-day social contract also feeds into this conversation and what our expectations can be in the first, quarter, and then maybe moving forward, especially as the budget is also due to be bred. But let me also bring into the conversation Dr. Theo Champong. You are an economist and political risk activist. What do you see in terms of the risks that lie ahead, the state of our economy, and maybe the boons, the positives as well, and what your expectations will be?
Yeah, good morning. So I think to give credit to the government, they've started relatively well in terms of executing their policy agenda. Some of the key appointments have been made. We've seen them make a number of commendable moves in relation to the first 120 days social contract on both the economic front, but as well as social issues, so like education, and then on the economy, I think next week they're having the National Economic Dialogue, and we're also seeing some moves on anti-corruption with oral and related matters. But I think what is important, like the other panelists have said, is we need a level of honesty from the president in terms of where things really sit within the country, especially on the economy. And I say this for one reason. So we've heard relatively that the MPP said they left a better economic situation than like they came to meet it. My concern, and I'd highlighted this in a number of interviews before, is that normally in the 6 months to elections in this country, we see a lot of spending that happens outside of what has been committed within budgets. And you only tend to actually find out how deep the rot or the issue is after the election. So normally 2-3 months post-election is when you realize that, things are actually not as good as we expected them to be. So whereas the first 6 months of last year, the numbers would have relatively been positive and probably aligned with the objectives of the IMF program, I personally wouldn't be surprised if during this SONA and then subsequently next month when the actual budget, the 2025 budget is delivered, that a lot of our fiscal numbers are actually a bit out of gear, especially when you look at the state-owned enterprises and the hemorrhage that they would have caused, because some of them were used to deliver or execute politically related projects in the run-up to the election. That is one of the biggest concerns that I have at the moment, that when we get to find out the totality of the numbers from June to December of last year, the fiscal situation would have been a bit more worse than anticipated. And what this then means really is that some of the proposed tax incentives like the government wants to give, for example, under the 24-hour economy policy, for example, the taxes that the government wants to scrap on e-levy and COVID and all of that, some may not be fully removed, or these incentives would have to be restructured in a slightly different manner without them having a major impact on the deficit and the exchange rate and all the other things that we are all, complaining about in that context. So I think there are a number of big ticket things that, for me, I expect the president to speak about with a level of honesty around the economy, around the tax issues, around employment, and sort of more medium to long term, what they're going to do to create more employment. Others have mentioned energy, security issues, galamsey issues. I would expect him to talk about infrastructure, right? So they mentioned the big $10 billion plan or push that they want to use to deliver infrastructure in partnership with the private sector. How exactly is that going to be done or delivered without it having a major impact on our debt sustainability? Right. Those sort of issues are quite important. Again, in the social sectors, I'm just wrapping up, if you look at health and education, traditionally these two sectors, the major interventions there have been donor funded and donor supported. And we've seen USAID, we've seen recently the FCD, or the British government, saying that they're going to scale back on their aid programs and all of that. So again, when you're having these major funding or major gaps in health and probably even in education, questions arise. For example, on pre-SHS, should we allow those that have the means to be able to pay to support their children, at least for the feeding in senior high school, to be able to do that? I am on record for saying yes to that people have to pay. The state subsidizes the day school component of it. But if you want to go to boarding house, you have to contribute something in support, of that. John spoke about corruption and governance, and the fact that these have big issues in terms of the cost of doing business in the country. And this is a major impact on the competitiveness of Ghana vis-a-vis other countries in the jurisdiction. So these are all things that, for me, I would expect the president to touch on. I don't think we're going to get full answers to all of them. Some he will make reference to the manifesto, but the important thing is that the SONA actually then sets the tone for the actual budget that will be delivered in the middle of March.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your initial comments. I'll come back into the studio and starting again with Dr. Mohammed. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I know where you lie on the religious spectrum, but John 18:38, there's something interesting there. Pilate would ask Jesus, what is truth? If you recall, what is truth? And you see, in our jurisdiction, truth usually depends on which political lenses you wear. So when the minority, for example, said, we want you to be truthful and all of that, which is the truth? The truth, the gospel according to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, or the gospel according to John Dramani Mahama? But what kind of truth are you hoping to see? What kind of truth did you see in respect of the economy, and what are you hoping to hear on that moving forward? Also from the standpoint of what we can do to make the economy better.
Well, critically, if you look at it, all of them are saying that you have to speak the truth. And the truth is one. You cannot lie about the truth. You understand? It is the picture of the economy that he has to paint. And most of my colleagues have already said a lot. If an aid of 156 million Ghana cedis, dollars is being gone from you, yes, gone, right? It's gone from you, and you have an oral report here that says that 21 point something billion dollars has been lost through what they call.
Is it the remittances?
No, not remittances.
Or which one?
The oral.
Oh, right. The cost of all of that.
The cost of that was about 21 point something billion.
The value.
If you translate that into the total, if you use the 156 million dollars and you divide it by 21 point something billion dollars, you are actually running about 135 years of loss. If you were to use that to finance the what do you call it, the aid. So this means that I want to see a concrete measures that we can put in place to ensure that procurement issues are done and done properly so that we can have value for money. If you don't have value for money, at the end of the day, you are not going to have a better outcome in terms of the resources that you have. Remember that we say that the economy is broke. If the economy is broke, what do you have to do? You have to ensure that you have value for money for everything that you do. If you don't have the value for money for it, at the end of the day, you are not going to have anything running better. Now, I think too...
And if I may just chip in, as you talk about the figures, I was bringing in the bit about remittances, because you know of the disjointed... it's about $11 billion or so, a difference.
2019, I saw that spike. That is something that I'm working on with somebody. When he sends the data, I look at it and I said, you have 2019 having remittances about 11 point something billion, and the rest of the years are running about 3 point something, 2 point something billion. This is like an official what do you call it? Capital inflows, foreign inflows.
Which should be pretty simple to track.
Which is pretty simple to track if it's passing through the banking system. So that 10 billion or 11 point something billion that came in, where did the money pass? Who brought the money in? Was it brought in as a result of, what do you call it, illegal, what do you call it, money laundering or whatever it is? Remember that recently some people were tracking money, they put money into this and they were trying to...
Containers
to flow the money out of the country. These are the channels through which people can use to bring in illegal wealth. So these are the measures. If you want to put in a better strategies in place to make sure that your economy run efficiently, then you have to ensure that some of these illegalities are tracked very well. Now, back to the educational sector that I was trying to make an emphasis on.
Right.
We are arguing that you need to pay for value for money, right? Free senior high school has been a very serious debate, especially between the two political parties. And I continue to maintain that it's going to be very difficult to be able to disaggregate and tell that this person is worthy, pay this, and the other person is worthy, don't pay that. Yes, boarding schools, someone can genuinely be poor, and the person may be coming from far away. That doesn't deny the person from attending a school, Presec or Achimota or whatever it is. But if the person doesn't have the financial muscle, why not? Look at the waste that will cause. So, as I was saying, if the procurement is done and done properly, I believe that we can cater for all of these basic things. The advanced countries are paying for their people, and I don't see anything wrong with we maintaining the free senior high school, but ensuring that we have value for money. Let's decentralize the system. Let's not keep all the food in Accra and allow one person to do that. Let us allow our cultural sector to be the anchor of providing the needed food to feed that sector. So if you give money to the cultural sector in the budget, let them produce the needed food and feed the schools and feed us here so that the money remains us and we circulate within the system. So I don't entirely believe that let's eliminate it. Let's maintain it, But let's be cautious about the nature in which we spend over there. Let us have value for money. Because these are human capital that we are building. And you cannot build human capital in vacuum. It's very expensive. And you really have to do that. So there are so many other things, as we said about the debt structure. I expect to see that the country, through nature of the debt, is reported. Because this is what is actually worrying the country. I remember that in 2022, we were out of the international capital market. Why? Because for a period of 2017 to 2022, the government had borrowed about $13.25 billion. You can go and check. And at an average interest rate of 8.25%, which means that is actually too much. And that is how come that we're not able to honor our debt obligations.
Right.
We have to enter into the DZ program. So I even expect a very concrete measures that the government is going to put in place to ensure that the debt exchange program is work well. Remember that they have already said that they are giving about 9-point-something billion Ghana cedis to make coupon payment, etc. There are more to come, and I believe that the president should give us concrete measures that they are going to put in place to ensure that the debt exchange program is work appropriately.
I know you'll come back to other issues. I see you've enumerated a number of them there. So let's have a bite-sized discussion, and when I come back to you, you can look at other areas. But here we are, Mark. There's a whole list of items to be looked at. Of course, you are coming from the standpoint of big business and commerce and all of that. But having looked at inflation, the fiscal issues, then you have the flagship programs, you have free SHS, and there are different opinions on them. You heard Doc share his opinion. You have tackling Galamsey infrastructure and all that. How can we make all of these work also in the context of keeping businesses afloat? The right measures to ensure that you can do business and do it well and also help build the economy.
Well, it's not going to be an easy task for...
It's a daunting one.
It's a daunting task because you go to a level where before you come up again, you need to do a lot of sacrifices. So I expect that we identify these sacrifices that we have to do. Managing an economy in itself is also very difficult because some of the policies that you bring out may also have some negative impact. For instance, if you say you want to control inflation and for that reason you are increasing the policy rate, you end up also increasing lending rate, and also the cost of production will also go up. So I'm expecting that much as we want to solve the problem, there should be a gradual process at it, and also we should try as much as possible to also minimize the negatives that will come out from some of the positives that we want to achieve.
The negatives that will come out of some of the positives, like which ones?
A typical example of, I use the inflation as a typical example. Of course, if you want to control Galamsey, it's not going to be an easy task because people think that they don't have food to eat. And for them, that their source of income is illegal, totally. And then when you go, they will fight you. And some of them will even threaten that they will not vote for you, for which reason we are in this current situation. But we have to do it. But in controlling Galamsey, what are the other alternatives that you are providing for those who are there? We are talking about Okada. I've seen a process where we want to formalize it and train the people, because this is what they are doing to eat. So if you want them to do it well, you are training them also, and also come with a cost. So whatever policy they are putting in place, I believe that some of them, there may be some consequences that we all have to manage. For us as businesses, we've been asking that some of the tax should be scrapped. And we know the consequences, we know its impact on revenue. If you are removing some of these taxes, that for the previous government, they felt that it's going to give them a lot of... Of course, we are talking about the COVID-19, we are talking about the e-levy. For nothing at all, even though we have spoken against this, it's giving the government some sort of revenue. If you are taking it out, what is the alternative way of generating revenue? Now, we believe that...
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
Before what you believe. Are you still, as a citizen,
yes,
are you willing to pay these taxes? Are you willing to go on to pay these taxes
E-levy.
so maybe government can rake in the revenue and work on where we find ourselves as an economy?
We believe that is not the only solution out. We have spoken against e-levy right from day one. From the rate even to its introduction, we have spoken against it. So we have done advocacy over the years against e-levy, and we are happy that the president, they have listened to us and said they are taking it out. Look, it's about revenue and expenditure. Let's also look at the expenditure side of it. It's not always revenue. In trying to generate revenue, as we have seen, you end up killing businesses. Now, who are those who are paying the taxes? These are the businesses, and the businesses will have to make profit before they pay the taxes. If the cost of production is high interest rate, numerous taxes, obviously they won't get the revenue, the profit to be able to pay those taxes. So some of them, I believe they should be scrapped, but the alternative is what I'm looking out for. How are we going to actually close the gap? If you say revenue gap, either we are cutting expenditure or we are finding an alternative way of also generating revenue. If businesses are doing very well, I know businesses who were paying huge taxes and now they have collapsed. If you put in place all the necessary measures for the businesses to come back and then be making profit, they will pay tax and then you get the revenue. The individuals who were working there, that for one reason or the other, they have been sacked because the business is not doing well. They will come, they also pay tax, and then they will also be able to help their family as well. So it's going to be a balance. Right. I don't expect that within 1 year, it's going to change the economy. No, I don't think anybody should expect that. It's going to be a gradual process. That's why all of us have to be patient. And also whatever support we have to provide, we'll do that. As Chamber of Commerce, we have said that whatever it takes for us to make the 24-hour economy a success, we are going to do that. Because we know it also has the potential to transform the economy. If you have somebody who is manufacturing or producing within 8 hours and say, now I can do 24 hours. If I'm employing 10 people, now I employ 20 because 10 will do during the daytime, 10 will do during the night time. You're employing 20. And if all these small businesses are all doing well, if they are all employing, look at the effect it will have on the economy in terms of reducing the number of people who are unemployed. So we have taken it upon ourselves. We are also coming out with a policy to help those from the university to be able to also establish their own businesses. And we took the model of this test
sort of incubator
yes,
setups.
And then we are launching the first one in Takoradi Technical University next Wednesday. We took the model of TESCOM and thing when they train people to become politicians. All the people who are in politics now, one way or the other, they were from this. So why don't we train the people at the universities to become business owners? Sometimes they need a little bit of support. Sometimes they need a little bit of advice. How people went through before they were able to become successful. So for this year, we are opening 5 of such junior youth in the universities, and we're going to do it in all the universities. It's a way of supporting government also for people to create their own jobs and reduce unemployment. So we are all ready to support. One thing I also want to say quickly is that it isn't that the MPP government, all the things that they did were all bad. Obviously, there were some good things that they also did. Let us also acknowledge that this is the good things that they did. It shouldn't always be because we politicize so much politicize, we always will be reporting on the bad things that happen. But for 8 years, if you are still alive, if you still throughout the COVID issues and all those things, obviously something good was done. I don't want to see a very biased state of the nation economy, state of the nation, but I want to see a fair balance of what the situation is. If it's good, let's say it. If it's bad, let's say it. Right. There's only one truth, as he said. And in economy, data will never lie. If you say inflation is 23%, I don't expect that Mahama will come and say inflation is 22% because it's coming from the Ghana Statistical Survey. And if you believe in these institutions, then obviously we should believe them. If they had reported on all the key macroeconomic variables as they should have done, then I don't expect that there will be any difference from what we have seen going forward. So we are looking at how all these things will fashion out and how we can move forward from here.
Dr. Obeng, please unmute, please mute for us. I can hear your voice in the background until I get to you, please. Thank you very much. Mark, thank you for those comments. Let me go to Dr. Theo Champong now, because then we also have the bit about, of course, revenue generated and then expenditure, as Dr. Mohammed will also point to. You look at the taxes that have been spoken about that may be scrapped. And in fact, you have the betting tax, you have the e-levy, you have the COVID-19 levy, among other, nuisance taxes that have been spoken of. These are the foremost ones. And then you look at expenditure, because the devil often is there. We rake in the revenue, but how you spend is the issue. If you take, for example, our analysis of the number of ministers being cut down, it is estimated that we are going to be saving about 40 million Ghana cedis, and we are just talking about salaries, emoluments, not to even talk about other perks, not to talk about the other benefits that these people would have got. We know the structures remain at the ministries, but the individuals, what they would have collected and what that would have meant to the public purse. What is your view on this, and what are your expectations in terms of what the president should be doing, how he should be talking about these in the SONA?
And the funny thing is, we say every little is much, right? 40 million Ghana cedis. If you take that and you divide by, let's say it cost about 800,000 to 1 million to build a 6-unit classroom block adjusted for inflation, that 40 million, and this is the thing that I want a lot of our US and ordinary Ghanaians to appreciate. 40 million will probably build 40 what? 6-unit classroom blocks, where we've got many of our people going to school, and even desks to sit on, books to use are not, available in that regard and in that context. And I also think that, look, it's not just the reduction in the number of ministers, it's really also the efficiency savings that you get as a result of rationalizing some of these, right, ministries and departments and agencies, that often you may get 2-3 people doing the same job, and to an extent you could even argue that they are underemployed to a certain extent. But those savings that you get by having a laser focus in terms of the delivery of the policy mandate, for me becomes even more important than sometimes even the headline numbers that we talk about. But it goes again to what the earlier speaker from the GNCCI and others have said. Look, it cannot just be a revenue conversation. And I've been on your platform and several others over the last few years where we've consistently highlighted, or at least I have, that we don't necessarily have a revenue problem as a country. We have a far bigger expenditure problem. And we keep collecting, we keep piling on the taxes. You choke the business environment. People struggle to borrow, only for those monies that are collected to be wasted, on certain frivolous projects and expenditures down the line. And this is connected to the broader political economy of also the corruption, right, issues in there. And this, for me, goes to the heart of what do we expect the government to deliver within this year and next year in terms of changing this narrative and changing this course around wasteful, expenditure. It's partly systems, but I also think it's partly beyond even that as to the constitutional reforms, the governance reforms that have been promised by the NDC, right? So who do you appoint to run some of these, state-owned enterprises? When people are going there and they don't have the technical wherewithal, or you have people in there and they're using these SOEs just to, reward them for their support during the political campaign, then believe you me, it doesn't matter what the IMF brings or any other person brings, we're still going to be in the same hole. And so I'm looking forward to more radical reforms around how we do things. In the SONA, you only get snippets of it. Hence why I am more interested, particularly on the budget and the other reforms that have been promised to be delivered by this administration, especially around the constitutional reforms, the powers of appointment, who does, because that is really the root, cause of all of these things that we're discussing here in this context. But we need to shift the conversation, in my view, from revenue into the quality of expenditure. And there's a few reports that are out there that actually benchmarks, expenditure quality or spending in the infrastructure space in Ghana vis-a-vis even some of our regional peers. And you'll be shocked how wasteful we are relative to some of the countries that we claim to be competing with within the sub-region. And if you don't address that, then we are only sort of shooting ourselves in the foot.
And speaking of such wastefulness, Dr. Osai Kwapong, I hear the rhetoric of discipline in terms of dealing with our fiscal issues, in terms of how we manage the public purse, in terms of procurement, which has become a devil when it comes to our economy. It's where a lot of the shady deals actually happen. And I don't need to, flog that horse because we are well aware of it. In respect of governance, what are your expectations in terms of streamlining these vis-a-vis working on our economy?
So, we have all in my opinion, we have all the rules in place. We have all the processes in place. We have all the fiscal rules in place, all of that. So it actually surprises me how some of these things can sort of bypass all of these rules in place in terms of the do's and don'ts around how you procure things, how you manage your finances. I always say that when I read the Auditor General's report and I compare it to when I was in secondary school back in the days where they would share excerpts in the daily graphic, the only thing that has changed is not the infractions. It's actually the magnitude of the infractions that have changed. So I think for me, on the governance side, vis-a-vis the economy, to stop some of these leakages, wasteful spending, the enforcement of the rules, but more importantly, the punishment that comes with breaches of the rules becomes a critical part of ensuring that we improve upon governance. Because if year after year we record all of these infractions around how we manage the public purse, as per the auditor's report, and nothing happens to institutions, nothing happens to institutional actors, then there's no incentive to change behavior, there's no incentive to change course. And so that for me will be very critical. How we enforce the rules and how we make sure we hold people accountable for causing any infractions with regards to the rules.
Dr. Obeng, then we come to what directly impacts you. We're talking about a 24-hour economy and what that would mean for traders, what that would mean for business across the length and breadth of the country. There is the $10 billion big push that has also been touted. How are you hoping these would reflect in today's SONA?
Yeah, so that's what I said earlier on, that government have to provide the incentives to attract, create an enabling environment. Because trading is gradually becoming unattractive because of the cost of doing duties and all that. And people are thinking about diversification, that we want to diversify into manufacturing, export, and others. So this provides very good opportunity for government to take advantage and then entice the trading community into diversing into more productive areas like manufacturing and all that. So whatever it is, they should let us have the access.
Dr. Obeng, what picture would that paint? How would that look? Because like it or not, inflation is where it is. You heard Aboagye talk about the fact that it will take time. This is not going to be a one-year thing. It will take time for us to reach certain levels. You look at the exchange rate, yes, it's been stable for a while, but it's pretty high and things must be done. All I'm saying is these will not just happen overnight. So what are some of the immediate term things that can be done to make life better for you in Guta?
Okay, so at least things that can be done immediately is reducing the tax burden. That one is easy because Mark was contemplating about the alternatives if we reduce the taxes. But for sure, the key to revenue enhancement is compliance. And then the key to compliance is the simplicity and affordability of these taxes that we pay. That's what government have not seen.
Right.
And that if they are able to pull down these taxes, for sure, it's going to reduce our burden, it's going to enhance our productivity that we so seek. And then we also think about the import substitution programs, where government will deliberately earmark some funds, like you mentioned, and all that, for businesses to access. So when these things are done, these are things that are doable, because you can easily do it, and people can also buy into it and to transform and do things better and better their lot and better that of the generality of Ghanaians. Yeah.
Dr. Mohammed, so on the economic standpoint, you would realize that, for example, this may be tangential in a way, but the mass sackings that have been spoken about, the directive by the chief of staff and all of that, now some amnesty has been given to those in the security services, but generally some have also said, if you're bringing in such numbers without proper, streamlining and realizing that these people are fit for purpose, fit to be here, it's going to be cost. And of the public sector, the wages, how much government expenditure goes into that. I want you to put that side by side with issues like Agenda 111 and its execution. Free SHS, you started talking about, and its execution. Basically, the flagship programs and the reality of dealing with them, one government to this one.
Well, thank you. The previous government has started a lot of programs. You have mentioned the Agenda 111, which is the one hospital for each district. You have also mentioned about free senior high school, a whole lot of other programs.
There were so many of them.
Yeah, so if you look at it critically, you realize that if you look at our expenditure pattern, the budget, you realize that the compensation to employees takes significant portion of our budget.
Indeed.
Apart from that, you have the interest payment and some other obligations, government transfers to other state institutions and all of that. And that constitutes significant portion of our expenditure pattern. I know that a lot of my colleagues have spoken about expenditure rationalization because that is very critical. And one of the key ways to rationalize your expenditure is to cut down the inefficiencies in your public sector wage bill. So we have so many people that you are bringing on board. You go to the offices, they don't even have places to sit, yet they are on government payroll. What is the efficiency of their productivity vis-a-vis how much they are earning as a wage? Does their productivity match with the wage? Because you know that from economic theory point of view, unemployment is reduced. So a 5 percentage point increase in GDP is going to lead to about 1 percentage point reduction in unemployment, according to the Okum's law. So typically, if you bring in people and they are not going to increase productivity, you are wasting. So if you look at the productivity curve, the more people you add, the marginal productivity reduces as you continue to add more people.
Yeah.
So we want to see...
The marginal benefits.
The marginal benefit is going to reduce. So we want to see... we don't want... So as marginal benefits is reducing, cost is increasing. And that is going to have a serious implication on your other social expenditures, like education, like health, etc., that you spoke about. If you look at it critically, in order to rake in more revenue, we decided to decouple the GED fund and that of the NHIS and make it stand alone as a straight levies. So when you buy something, they compute the NHIS, COVID-19, they compute the get fund, and they'll add it back to the total cost. After that, they will slap 15% taxes on it.
Which some people
have said
people in the business community have been up in
it's a
arms about.
cascading taxation effect, and it has a very serious implications. Sometimes you go and buy something to come and sell. What you will make out of it, the taxes that you are going to pay from it, it divides your profit into about 3 times of how much taxes that you make. So like others have said, it's about the efficiency of our expenditure. We are not saying that don't employ in the public sector, but employ in such a way that when the people come, their marginal benefit outweighs their marginal costs. It's very, very important. So once we are able to do that, we are able to put those measures in place, then it means that the government is setting a path that they can work very well to be able to consolidate economic transformation. Remember that you cannot have a very strong economic anchor if you don't have a very resilient human capital development. So education and health is very important. These are the 2 elements that constitute the good human capital development. You remember that the government says that they want to come up with national apprenticeship program. And the national apprenticeship program is going to be targeting people who are not in the formal sector. So if you want to target them, you need what? Money to be able to do so. So it's not just about employing people from the senior universities and putting them into the workspaces. Give opportunity to people like my friend here, Mark, and the Guta people. Put in the better strategies and mechanisms. Let us have a labor transition mechanism like they are trying to do, so that when people, before they come out of school, they already know what they want to come out and do. It is not always about coming out of school and getting employed in the formal sector. If you begin your own business, establish and become a successful business person, I mean, you'll be out there. I once wrote in my Facebook wall that I want to be the next Aliko Dangote of Africa. And people were like, how can you do that in the classroom? Then I laughed, because in the classroom, you have more ideas to think. You have more time to think and see how best you can come out with businesses to be able to what? To also create employment. It is a passion to create employment. And if you want to create employment, you need to come up with business ideas. So what are the measures and the strategies that the government is putting in place so that we don't necessarily concentrate more on government employment, so that we have a labor shifting mechanism? The African Development Bank and others have so much. If you look at the African Economic Outlook, in this year, we are focusing more on human capital development. What are the measures and strategies are we putting in place to ensure that we have a better human capital development? So, as I say, if the government wants to shift, then it means that we have to strike the balance. You have given the security services the leeway because you want to ensure that you mop in the 24-hour economy. One of the critical elements in that is security, right? And as I said the last time, it's not just about only the providing police service, army, and all of that. You need to put in place the lightning system, because if you look at in the evening, you go, if you are driving along the street, even our Pukwasi Road, you realize that all the lights are off. Yeah. And you cannot run... Even the Temamoto way. The Temamoto way. You cannot run an economy like that. If you run an economy where it is dark and you say you want to run a 24-hour economy, so we have to tackle some of these things and ensure that we put security cameras everywhere. If the place is well lit, the economy itself will turn into 24-hour economy. You don't need to force a policy there. You provide the enabling environment, and the people will work around the clock to ensure that you have a better... And the businesses will follow. Is that correct, Aboagye? I mean, looking... And I want us to focus now for a bit on the 24-hour economy, because it's, again, the flagship program of... One of the flagship programs, but probably the biggest of this current administration. How can we actualize it? I know the SONA will not capture everything. The budget likely would start looking at it. But how can we ensure that it meets the expectations of the GNCCI, for example?
Yeah, for me, I think it's doable because other countries are doing it. But as has been said, you cannot just say, I'm doing 24-hour economy and it will work. There are certain conditions that you have to ensure that they exist on the ground. Now, if you take a manufacturing company, for instance,
right,
one thing they would need is energy, electricity. And even the cost of energy for a typical manufacturing company in Ghana is 30% of their total cost of production. So if you are providing the energy, it should be reliable and should also be affordable. The question we are asking ourselves is that, are we there? One, before we start the 24-hour economy.
Right.
Our cost of...
There's been talk about those who come on board being given certain incentives, including tariff incentives and all of that.
Obviously.
But all of this has to be streamlined.
Exactly. I think that we should go beyond talk. I'll give you a typical case of the one district, one factory. When we were told that those who want to set up some of this factory will be given certain incentives. One is that if you want to go and borrow at the bank, the government will take a percentage of interest rate that you would have paid. So instead of, let's say, 30%, government takes 10%, you will pay 20%. A lot of them did not get some of this incentive that were promised.
Did that ever happen?
Some did, obviously, but most of them, I mean, a lot of them that were expecting, and people had gone to borrow thinking that there will be this support to add to whatever they have and also set up this manufacturing company. Obviously, some of them, that's why the result is what we are seeing. So sometimes we need to go beyond these manifesto promises and look at how we can implement them and do the things that we say we are going to do. One other key thing, security is also important, but for a business, the 24-hour economy is not only producing goods and services for Ghanaians. We are looking at ECOWAS. We are looking at Africa under the AFTA. The demand is there, but you need to also check on your cost of production as well. If you send your product outside, people will not buy it because it's coming from Ghana. They will buy it, one, because of the quality, and two, because of the price. As I speak to you now,
we are all, even the richest, are rational buyers.
Exactly.
As the economists will tell you, we are rational buyers. We don't buy out of compassion.
That is, it's coming from Ghana. Unless they don't have even our own chocolate. I mean, others are doing it, people are buying from them. The goods that we export now are not competitive in the international market. Because a typical Ghanaian who wants to export will have to borrow at 35%. Go to Cote d'Ivoire, they are borrowing less than 10%. The cost of utility is less there. Taxes are not as high and numerous as we have here.
Which also explains why we have so many products and people contracting from Ghana all the way to China to produce and bring back. It is more cost efficient to do that than to give it to the Ghanaian supplier to actually
That is why we've seen a lot of import nowadays. If you look at import, the data at 2023, you'll be surprised. Billions and billions of dollars. Toilet roll alone in 2023, we imported $100 million of toilet roll. Are we saying as a country, we cannot produce that? We should be able to, but if you try to produce here, by the time you are done, your price will be higher than the one who has imported. Somebody was trying to make a bit of analysis to see, and we realized that the bottled water, the person wanted to import some from Turkey. The person could have imported bottled water from Turkey and will come and sell it in Ghana here at a lower price than what we are producing here. You can never be competitive under such circumstances. Yeah. You can never operate a 24-hour economy under such circumstances because you have to look at the international market. AFTA has created a market for us. We are saying it's 1.2 billion. If you look at the GDP, all those things are there. But for us to take advantage of that, produce the quality goods, also produce goods that are affordable to the people because you are competing. In fact, the challenge we have if AFTA is in full swing is that goods that are coming even from the North Africa alone, Egypt, Morocco, and the rest, they produce at a very lower cost. They will flood our market. They will kill all the businesses that we have here.
So that will be a localized China example there.
From
North Africa.
Yes, from North Africa. So we should look at this, should listen to the things that the business community are saying. There are things that if you begin to do them, it will help us. 2 days ago, when I heard that we were going to do the National Economic Dialogue, and I got the things they were going to discuss, I went back to check the Ghana Private Sector Development Strategy 1 and 2, and I checked the things in there. That's about 15 years ago. If you had implemented just 30 to 40% of it, our economy would have changed. And I don't want us to go on the 3rd and 4th and go and discuss the same thing that we have spoken about over and over and over again. Our issue is not policy development. Our issue is how we implement those policies. So we should go beyond the English we are going to speak, the economists will come and speak, private sector will come and speak. We put it in a very good document with the Senche, and we didn't implement them, and that's where we find ourselves. So for me, let's look at the things we can do. As I've said, we cannot do all of them instantly. It should be a gradual process. If you are removing tax, let's look at the nuisance one, remove them. Now, we come back to inflation. Let me just, if you look at what our inflation, what constitutes the inflation that we have, a chunk of them is food. Food inflation. In Ghana, every household, they spend 45% to 50% on food. So your salary, you are spending 50% of food. School fees, other things had not come. Obviously, if you are not careful, you cannot invest and you will die early. That is one thing that we also have to look at. I went back to the planting for food and jobs. The name is there. We are planting for food and jobs. I want President Mahama today to tell me whether we were able to plant for food and jobs. Did we create the jobs out of the planting for food and jobs? And what kind of jobs did we create?
I think even before the president says it, we all know the answer to
No, but obviously, when you are there and you have the numbers, you have the document, things will be clearer than what we are seeing here.
Right.
Obviously, as politicians, they always will come and tell us the sweet things that, I mean, during the election time, all the things, no politician will come and say the bad things that they have done. But now that they are there, whoever the Minister of Agric is, in his report in the SONA, I want to see the planting for food and jobs 1 and 2. Right. If you had been able to do that successfully, I don't think we'll have the challenge we are having with inflation. I don't think we'll have some of the challenge we are having with the level of unemployment that we are having. And the fact that we are importing all these things, if you import $1 worth of a product from any country, it means that you are creating $1 worth of employment from where you are importing from, and you are reducing your employment situation by $1 worth. Imagine the billions of dollars of goods and services that we are importing. If you are able, at least, to produce some of them here, we would have created the jobs. We have the capacity and the potential, and we have competitive advantage in key sectors.
Right.
Like the manufacturing sector, agro-processing, cosmetics, the plastics. I've said that we did a simple research on our relationship with Burkina Faso, things that they import from us, and we extrapolated for 5 years. Within 5 years, if we are consistent, we'll be able to generate $5 billion just from Burkina Faso alone, from importing to them. $5 billion. How much is IMF giving us? $3 billion. Even that, look at the way we are suffering. The conditions, the stress. So, as a country, we need to sit down. We have the potential. I believe we can do it. If we have the political will, we can do it. So I want President Mahama, at least he has 4 years. He's not going to seek for any re-election. He should set a record that all of us will refer to and say that, but for Mahama, Ghana would have been like this.
And coming to you, Dr. Theo Champong, these are crucial aspects to look at, but I'll still stay with you on the 24-hour economy and ask you from where you sit what the priority areas would be that we need to start working on in the immediate term. We already have that grouping led by Guzitano that is in charge of bringing this to bear, but what must we start working on today with the President SONA?
Thank you very much. And I think Mark has made very important points in terms of the 24-hour economy, which I wholeheartedly align with. As for the areas or the sectors, a number of them have been outlined. So if you actually look on the NDC's manifesto, I think page 22, they are applying 12 areas that they sort of, or sectors that they will focus on. And this cuts both economic and what I would call kind of social sectors. So they talk about agro-processing, they talk about manufacturing, they talk about pharmaceuticals, construction, sanitation, hospitality, all the way to health and security. And like Mark absolutely said, Some of them we have sort of comparative advantages in those sectors. Others too, maybe not so much. But the important thing away from all these sectors is, why are these sectors not even delivering, right, currently without even a 24-hour, right, economy in terms of manufacturing or pharma, which Ghana has a huge advantage in the sub-region. I happen to have consulted for a number of donor programs within this space that is looking at like automotives, pharmaceuticals, and textile. And the evidence is very clear that if we get our act together, we can not only produce for the region, but even export to other countries in Africa under the AFCFTA. So the important thing for me becomes, how do you deal with the structural barriers, the things that Mark is talking about, right? The issues of energy, electricity, the issues of the taxes, when you are importing goods or even intermediate capital goods, the things that you need to turn these into product and services, the taxes at the port, what do you do about them? The interest rates, you go to the bank and you have to borrow 27, 30%. The exchange rate related issues, and even security and all of that. And it comes down fundamentally for me to the point that the 24-hour economy cannot take place if you don't have the macro fundamentals right? And this is really the key thing that I expect the president and the finance minister in the coming weeks to lay more emphasis on the steps being taken to address the macro or the fundamentals so that we can actually be competitive. Because at the end of the day, 24-hour economic policy is all about competitiveness. If you implement all of these and you don't do it in a structured manner and it becomes sort of ad hoc and the interventions are not sequenced, what will happen is that we're still going to end up, at the bottom of the pile, where our goods, where the services that you're producing is not able to compete with others coming even from Burkina Faso or Nigeria or Cote d'Ivoire, for that matter. So the sectors are clear. Where we have the potential is very clear. The agro, the farmer, the construction, those things, not an issue. It is really for me the how bit. And the how bit is how you address those structural barriers, the energy issues, the tax issues, the interest rate issues, the exchange rate issues, how you provide security and improve productivity overall, because that is what is really at the heart of the whole Made in Ghana or Eat, Consume Ghana agenda. And you can go back to Kwame Nkrumah's, first and second 7-year development plans. You can look at other plans, and it's actually not that different, right? In terms of what you need to do to push and make these sectors, competitive for producers and consumers in Ghana, as well as for export. So yeah, it comes back for me fundamentally, not in terms of sector focus, but what you do to address those structural barriers. And then those sectors will pick up by themselves.
Right. And speaking of sectors picking up by themselves, Dr. Obeng, as we talk about the 24-hour economy, you are the men on the ground. You are there. You have the numbers. How can the door of the 24-hour economy be opened to you? What are some of the areas that you feel this government can help out? Yes, we've spoken about the nitty-gritty of inflation and all of that, but practically, what areas are you hoping to go in? How can you be assisted?
Yeah, so I've told you about trade diversification, that we want to diversify. And so most of us have actually even put their proposals before government to migrate into manufacturing. And so we can do manufacturing. In 24 hours, as traders, we will be doing our trading in the normal daylight. And if we have the opportunity to set out our factories, we can have even better opportunity to supervise our factories in the night. So it goes very well even for the traders if government will make a deliberate effort to support us. So that's why the enabling environment is important, like Dr. Chiu talked about the interest rate, and that's access to credit. How is government deliberately, because if you want it to work, then there should be a deliberate effort for you to support people to do it, to subsidize, provide the needed incentives, and we are open for this.
Right.
And that's why we are also expecting a government to talk about access to affordable credit, as have been promised for our women in the market. So we are also expecting that the president also talk about that, because access to credit will also enhance on the 24-hour economy. Because if we have that access, then we can also trade into the 24-hour economy. So it's very essential. We are bracing ourselves up for this roundable agenda. But then also we have to make a conscious effort to support, especially if we are able to identify where we have the comparative advantage, as Mark was talking about, because it's not everything that we can also produce in this country.
Exactly.
So the areas that have the comparative advantage, we make conscious efforts to bring that out and encourage people to go there, and we'll be able to do it and do it well.
Let me bring in Dr. Kwapong, Osai Kwapong. Your quick take on the 24-hour economy, and I'm thinking as well about the headache of state-owned enterprises when it comes to governance, for example. What are you looking at in respect of that? Do we have Dr. Osai Kwapong? Hello, Doc. If you can hear me, you would have to unmute. It appears we've lost Dr. Osai Kwapong. I would have wanted, then I'll throw that question to you. The headache of state-owned enterprises. We keep bleeding, we spend so much, we incur losses, and yet look at the salaries some of them, the CEOs and top managers earn. So I'm starting with your final thoughts, all of you gentlemen, but I'll start from that standpoint. Maybe you can give us a quick thought on that as you add your final thoughts.
Most of the state enterprises are really not functioning properly. And I think that recently SIGA is putting in measures, strategies in place so that they can best be positioned and they can change their way of doing things. I have the opportunity to do a consultancy for one of them. We wrote a case for BOST. We realized that BOST is now in the path of making some profit. Formerly, it was posting some losses, but in recent times, it's now becoming more profitable. I do hope that the new CEO will take clue from the former CEO.
Mr. Professor, that's the former.
Yes, the former CEO. See how best they can actually position it. So state-owned enterprises by its own self needs to sit down and look at it critically. What can we do to ensure that we now post profit? You cannot consistently be making losses. After all, you generate the revenue to pay yourselves. Why should we be making losses? And some of them are even near monopoly. And how can a monopoly be making significant losses like ECG? It's just because of inefficiency in terms of revenue generation. If they're able to do well and ensure that people pay their electricity on time and pay well, you will be surprised. Look, I was doing a particular research in some part of the communities. Electricity was given to them for more than 4 years. No even meters, no bill, nothing. So it is about government also ensuring that the efficiency comes in and the state enterprise also ensuring that they have the efficiency in place. So in that manner, we can have a better system in place.
All right. Mark? Yeah. Any thoughts, final thoughts for us as we wrap the conversation?
On the state-owned enterprise?
Oh, no. This was just a general question.
I mean, from what you have experienced over the years, it goes to confirm that there is no business for government to be in business.
Government has no business in business.
There's no business.
Create the atmosphere.
Create the atmosphere. Consistently. Look at all these state-owned enterprises. In fact, it's one of the reasons why we have this high debt. Because some of the contingent liabilities are coming from these state-owned enterprises. And of course, You cannot be doing that. Create the environment, allow the private sector to work. And I'm sure, I know that you have a very competent private sector in Ghana that, given the support, will be able to do a lot of things. For this SONA, for me, as the name says, it's going to give us just the state. I'm looking forward to the budget. The budget will now come out with the policies and directions that will help us come out from these difficulties that we are in now. And I'm expecting that we should be able to navigate all these challenges going forward. Thank you.
Dr. Theo Champong, final thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree that we need to do more for the private sector, but the private sector cannot function if you don't have a competent state. You know, China and a number of the East Asian countries have clearly shown us that if you have a competent and an efficient state, you can deliver better economic governance outcomes for your people and for the private sector as well. So we actually need both to really work together. We need a competent state delivery machinery. Those state-owned enterprises have to deliver profitability and dividends for the citizens of Ghana, not just as a conduit of sharing political, patronage. And that would be my concluding thoughts.
Final thoughts from you, Dr. Joseph Obeng. Very brief final thoughts.
Yeah, there's too much waste in the system. We have to look at it. Much as we are thinking about revenue generation, we have to think about how the expenditure pattern. We have to evaluate and then scrutinize it well, and then fund value for money policies to address that. That's it. Thank you. And then I will also encourage the government to reduce the taxes, and that is the only sure way that will enhance on revenue, because that's what will assure compliance, and that government should be emboldened to reduce these taxes, and then compliance will be assured, and we'll get our work to develop this country and rope in more people outside the tax net. That's what we have to do.
All right.
A lot more people into it, and then we go.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. You've enriched the conversation, and now, well, all roads lead to Parliament. You've seen the footage in the background. They are gearing up for President John Mahama's second term and the first or the maiden SONA of his second term. Those who joined us for the conversation: Dr. Theo Champong, economist and political risk analyst; Dr. Jabir Mohammed, senior lecturer, University of Ghana Business School; Mark Bedu Aboagye, Chief Executive Officer, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry; and Dr. Joseph Obeng, President, Ghana Union of Traders Association. We also had Dr. John Osai Kwapong, a CDD Fellow. We are so grateful to you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Well, we take you straight there. We'll leave you with some of the footage coming through from Parliament. And of course, you can expect that in the next few minutes, we'll be bringing you the State of the Nation address, courtesy the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Thank you for watching. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I did this together with Sweetie Abochi.
The big man himself.
Yeah, the big man.